Chapter 1341. There's one thing I need all of you to do, Duan Lingtian announced unhurriedly and ordered the three of them to search for the materials needed to repair the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. Apart from using our Half Moon Island's force, use the other three great overseas Saint Islands forces too. I'll be making a long trip in within these few days, so I'll inform the hidden fog island of the three great overseas Saint Islands. I'll leave the other two great overseas Saint Islands to you. The tone in Duan Lingtian's voice brooked no argument. He left the moment his words left his mouth, only his silhouette could be seen by Shao Kun and the other two. Oh, our new island master of Half Moon Island, is just too terrifying. Shao Kun said, horrified. That's right, it has only been a while, but his strength has surpassed ours. I suspect he's not even human. How is it possible for a human body to withstand three of our attacks? The other two Vice Island masters were shocked as well. The moment they recalled the scene earlier, an inexplicable sense of disbelief immediately rose up from the bottom of their hearts. Duan Lingtian had a million thoughts running through his mind when he left. Currently, my cultivation base has already made a breakthrough to the 9th level Martial Emperor stage. However, the profundities I comprehended is a little lacking. I'm still far behind compared to Shao Kun and the other two in terms of origin energy and profundities. However, I've cultivated the Saint-grade martial tactic Colossal Arrow Light Arrow. Since I've cultivated the movement technique in the Colossal Arrow Light Arrow to the fundamental awareness stage, it has offset the speed difference between them and me, allowing my speed to be on par with theirs. Moreover, with my body right now, I can withstand their attacks as long as they don't use any spirit weapon. Naturally, this is also because they did not cultivate any Saint-grade martial tactic. If they had cultivated the Saint-grade martial tactic and used the offensive technique, my body would not have been able to endure their attacks. In the Colossal Arrow Light Arrow, the Arrow Light Strike is the first and also highest level offensive technique I've cultivated. With the help of this technique, my offensive ability has far surpassed Shao Kun and the other two. The battle earlier had allowed Duan Lingtian to gain a new understanding of his own strength. What's most important is to raise two types of profundities now. I heard from Shui Nai that a martial artist from Cloud Continent must at least raise one of his Martial Emperor stage profundity to the 9th level if he wants to make a breakthrough to the Mortal Shedding stage. At that time, with the 9th level Martial Emperor stage profundity as the intermediary, I'll merge all of my profundities into my body and use its force to open up my Saint Veins. Once I've opened up my Saint Veins, I'll break through to the early stage Mortal Shedding stage. Anyone at the 9th level Martial Emperor stage who had comprehended a 9th level Emperor stage profundity would be considered as a powerhouse at the peak of Martial Emperor stage, just like the three great Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. The first island masters of the three great overseas Saint Islands were also at this level. After returning to his mansion, Duan Lingtian learned that Han Shui Nai had gone into closed-door cultivation. According to the three little fellows, she was close to breaking through to the Mortal Shedding stage now. All of you, get ready. When your sister Shui Nai comes out of her closed-door cultivation, we'll make our way back to Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian told Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold. The moment the three little fellows heard this, their eyes lit up immediately. They had longed to leave this nasty place. On Cloud Continent, apart from the two ancient clans, it was almost impossible for them to encounter someone who was stronger than them. Due to this reason, they lived a very carefree life on Cloud Continent, doing whatever pleased them. When they came to Half Moon Island, they realized there were many people who were much stronger than them on this island that was only the size of a palm. In the next period of time, other than accompanying the two girls, Duan Lingtian used the rest of his time comprehending the fused and sword profundities quietly. Soon after, he discovered something shocking. He discovered that his comprehending speed was extremely fast now. It only took him 10 days to make a breakthrough in his fused and sword profundities. After another 20 days, he made another breakthrough in his two profundities again. Elder Huo, do you know what's going on? Duan Lingtian could not help but ask Elder Huo. He had a feeling it was closely related to the second rebirth that he had undergone. The answer he obtained from Elder Huo was just as he had expected. Now that his body had undergone the second rebirth, not only was his body stronger than a 5-clawed divine dragon, but even his perception was much stronger than before. It was to the point where ordinary people could no longer compare to him. According to a saying on Cloud Continent, the speed of comprehending profundities depended on the level of one's comprehension ability. However, it actually depended on one's perception. Those who had a strong perception would be able to comprehend profundities very quickly. This was also why De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, broke through to the mortal shedding stage so quickly even though he was not able to enjoy the cultivation resources from the dragon clans. As a five-clawed devil dragon, one of the finest five-clawed divine dragons, his perception was terrifyingly strong due to the strength of his body. However, Duan Lingtian's body was even more powerful than his. Therefore, there was no doubt his perception was even more terrifying than his. When Han Shuinai finally came out of her closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian's sword profundity had already progressed to the 8th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Shuinai, you've made a breakthrough. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately when he saw Shuinai's delicate face was no longer as childish-looking as before and her temperament seemed to have undergone a great transformation as well. Yes, she smiled as she nodded. How many saint veins did you open? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. 10, Han Shuinai responded. The moment the words left her mouth, the smile on her face became even more dazzling. Being able to open 10 saint veins at the early stage of the mortal shedding stage could also be considered as outstanding in the Dao martial saint land. In fact, a martial emperor stage martial or Dao cultivator would open more saint veins as they continued to cultivate. Han Shuinai could already open 10 veins at the mortal shedding stage early stage. In the future, the number of saint veins she would be able to open in the other 4 stages would be even more than this. For example, she would be able to open 11 saint veins at least in the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage, and she would be able to open at least 12 saint veins at the mastery stage. When Han Shuinai made it to the paramount stage of the mortal shedding stage, she would have opened 60 saint veins at the very least. In the Dao martial saint land, it was only a matter of time before martial or Dao cultivators opened 50 or more saint veins as long as they did not suddenly die or met with some mishap. Due to this reason, Han Shuinai was extremely delighted. Although she was a native of the Dao martial saint land, she did not cultivate using the cultivation method that the Dao martial saint land's natives used. Her cultivation method was more similar to the cultivation method of the martial or Dao cultivators from the mortal continent where they emphasized more on a deep foundation. Naturally, the cultivation speed was much slower due to this. As the saying went, you reap what you sow. Being able to open 10 saint veins the moment she made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage early stage was her reward. Although Duan Lingtian was slightly shocked, he quickly congratulated her. Congratulations, Shuinai. He truly felt happy for her. Now that she had opened 10 saint veins at the mortal shedding stage early stage, her future looked very promising. Thank you, brother Lingtian. Han Shuinai could not stop smiling at all. Since Shuinai already came out of her closed-door cultivation, Duan Lingtian proceeded to tell her about his plan of returning to Cloud Continent. I've decided to move Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island when I return. Half Moon Island is indeed the best cultivation place outside of the Dao martial saint land. With this place as its base, Lingtian sect will eventually become a true super sect. Han Shuinai agreed with Duan Lingtian's plan. She had held some sentiment for Lingtian sect. During the time when Duan Lingtian was absent, she was the acting sect leader of Lingtian sect and had managed it in his place. When Duan Lingtian said he wanted to leave, he really meant it. He brought the 2 girls and the 3 little fellows with him, and they left Half Moon Island together with Han Shuinai. After leaving Half Moon Island, they did not immediately return to Cloud Continent. Under Duan Lingtian's lead, they went to the Hidden Fog Island again to look for Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island. Island Master Tang, where's the first revered elder of your Hidden Fog Island? Duan Lingtian asked without beating around the bush. Tang Zhen did not dare to slack at all when he saw Han Shuinai standing next to Duan Lingtian since he had witnessed her killing the first island master of Coral Island with only a Dao talisman. Elder Kai Huo has been taken away by someone from the Dao martial saint land not too long ago. Somebody from the Dao martial saint land? Duan Lingtian frowned. How about the woman he brought back with him from Cloud Continent? She has also been taken away, Tang Zhen replied. Why would people from the Dao martial saint land take them away? Han Shuinai asked. It's because they used to have fire spirit bodies or something, I don't really know the exact reason, he replied. Alright, I guess there must be a force from the Dao martial saint land that has taken a liking to their fire attribute innate talent, Han Shuinai muttered to herself as she nodded. It was as though she had figured out something. As someone who came from the Dao martial saint land, she naturally knew about things that ordinary people were not privy to. Shuinai, however, Duan Lingtian confused. He did not know what was going on at all. Brother Lingtian, Sister Tian Wu must have been taken as a disciple by a force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. They must have taken a liking to her innate ability, and because she formerly possessed the fire spirit body, Han Shuinai replied. But the energy that came from the fire spirit body inside her is long gone. Duan Lingtian frowned. Brother Lingtian, I've said it earlier, she formerly possessed the fire spirit body. Han Shuinai interrupted Duan Lingtian and emphasized on the word. Formerly, the body of a person who formerly possessed the fire spirit body would certainly be affected. Moreover, she or he would have an even greater affinity with the fire attribute. Be it cultivating fire attribute cultivation method or fire attribute saint grade martial tactic, this type of people would have an extraordinary progress speed, Han Shuinai continued. I see, Duan Lingtian finally understood. So it turned out that a force from the Dao Martial Saint Land had taken a liking to Tian Wu's innate talent. Do you know which force from the Dao Martial Saint Land is this? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Tang Zhen. Chapter 1342. Even Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, had no idea which sect from the Dao Martial Saint Land had taken Feng Tian Wu away. This made Duan Lingtian sigh out loud. However, one thing I can be sure of now is that Tian Wu is safe. Duan Lingtian sighed in relief when he thought of this. Duan Lingtian proceeded to ask Tang Zhen to help him find the materials that were needed to fix the 7 treasure exquisite pagoda. Whether it was because he feared Han Shuinai's ruthless method or Half Moon Island's prestige, Tang Zhen did not dare to slack when it came to Duan Lingtian's request. He quickly ordered the entire Hidden Fog Island to search and gather the materials. Tang Zhen was so shocked that he did not regain his senses for a long time when he found out Duan Lingtian had become the new island master of Half Moon Island. At this time, Duan Lingtian also found out that the group of martial emperors and demon emperors from Cloud Continent had already returned to Cloud Continent. Previously, during the trip to Half Moon Island, whether it was the 3 great overseas Saint Islands or the 3 great mortal continents, including Cloud Continent, all of them could be considered as suffering a huge loss. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. The scene that happened before his eyes that time was still vivid in his mind. Di Yong, the former island master of Half Moon Island, had used his devil technique to absorb vital essence and killed 85 outstanding powerhouses at their prime who came from the 3 great overseas Saint Islands and the 3 great mortal continents. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and his group left the Hidden Fog Island. After they left the Hidden Fog Island, they immediately headed back to Cloud Continent. Throughout the journey, Han Shuinai, who had made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage early stage, brought Duan Lingtian and the others flying with her. The speed was so fast that Duan Lingtian's speed when he came here could not compare to it at all. When Duan Lingtian came, it was Yang Wei, Martial Emperor Lingzan, who brought them here. Yang Hui's cultivation base was only at the 4th level Martial Emperor stage. When it came to speed, it was still a long way away from Han Shuinai. With Han Shuinai's speed, it only took them a few days to cross the long stretch of the ocean before they reached Cloud Continent without a hitch. Due to their extremely fast speed, they did not even alert any powerful demon beasts in the ocean region at all. After Duan Lingtian and the group of people had arrived at the northern outer land of Cloud Continent, they continued their journey and crossed the Ruo Shui River before successfully arriving at the inner land of Cloud Continent. Shuinai, I'd like to ask the 2 great ancient clans to help me search for the materials, Duan Lingtian told Han Shuinai when they made it back to Cloud Continent. No problem. Han Shuinai smiled casually. To her, asking the 2 great ancient clans for help was just a trivial matter. Little Gold, Little Black, Little White, the 3 of you will go and ask the other martial emperors and demon emperors for help, Duan Lingtian told the 3 little fellows. All right, the 3 little fellows' eyes lit up immediately. This was a very fun task for them. If there was any demon emperor or martial emperor who refused to help, they would have an excuse to attack. They had been holding back for too long during their stay in Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian had complete faith in the 3 little fellows' strength. Even Martial Emperor Qingzan and Demon Emperor Manwu, the most powerful people who were active on the surface of Cloud Continent, were no match for them at all. Moreover, Martial Emperor Qingzan would definitely help them since he knew who they were. As for Demon Emperor Manwu, he had seen Han Shuinai's technique before. Even if he was more powerful than them, he would not dare to refuse them as well. After Han Shuinai and the 3 little fellows left, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls and went to the new site of Lingtian sect. He had already learned about the new site of Lingtian sect from Han Shuinai. The new site of Ling Tian sect was a towering and lofty mountain peak. Han Shuinai had named it Ling Tian Peak. I'll bring the two girls to pay respect to senior sister Yang Shui first. Duan Ling Tian extended both his hands and held each of their hands. He brought them to the original site of Ling Tian sect. The original base site of Ling Tian sect was also the site of the former Yin Yang sect. After Ka and Li Fei heard Duan Ling Tian's words, their eyes were brimming with tears. At this moment, they could not help but recall the senior sister who had sacrificed her own life for their sakes. Sensing how emotional the two girls were, Duan Ling Tian tightened his grip on their hands as he reassured them, if senior sister Yang knows that both of you are living well, I'm sure she'll be able to rest in peace in her grave. Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian flew swiftly like a meteor that brushed past the sky as he brought the two girls along with him. The speed was so fast that it was extremely terrifying. Boom, 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 all of a sudden, a series of loud explosions resonated in the air and entered Duan Ling Tian and the girls' ears. The noise seemed to be approaching them as time went by. As it turned out, the noise came from the front, and it was apparent the noise came from someone fighting. Duan Ling Tian originally did not have any intention to interfere. However, a boisterous voice that reverberated in the sky made him halt his movement instantly. His expression had turned solemn. Chi Yu, you're going to die today. It was this thunderous snarl that made Duan Ling Tian halt his movement. Chi Yu, Ka and Li Fei exchanged glances with each other. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. They were familiar with this name. They still remembered when Duan Ling Tian recounted everything he had been through. He had mentioned a third-rate force in the eastern district of the northern desert that was situated in the southern outer land of Cloud Continent. That third-rate force was called Five-Element Sect. The Five-Element Sect was divided into 5 peaks: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. The peak master of Wood Peak was called Chi Yu. And their man had a very close relationship with the Wood Peak of Five-Element Sect. Could it be just a coincidence? Li Fei asked. Well, we'll find out if we have a look, Duan Ling Tian responded. In just a blink of an eye, he brought the two girls to the place where the fighting noise had originated from. There were 3 sturdy middle-aged men who were attacking one man from all sides. The heaven and earth phenomenon whirled above the sky as numerous ancient black dragons gathered and darted around. This sight was not something one would be able to see in the 4 great overseas Saint Islands. However, Duan Ling Tian's attention was not on that. Peak Master Chi Yu, although he only caught a glimpse of the silhouette of the person who was being attacked, he instantly recognized it was Chi Yu, the Peak Master of Wood Peak from Five-Element Sect. He was someone who had helped him a lot in the past. At this moment, Chi Yu was grievously injured and on the verge of dying after being simultaneously attacked by 3 people. He would die if this continued on. After making sure the person in front of him was Chi Yu, Duan Ling Tian vanished from his spot without any warning. When he reappeared again, he was already by Chi Yu's side. Boom! At the same time, a vast rolling impact wave swept out and sent the 3 people who attacked Chi Yu flying like an arrow that had left the bowstring. The 3 of them appeared extremely wretched. While they were flying, blood continued to stream out of their mouths. It made for a dazzling sight as it splattered in the air. After they flew for quite a distance, the 3 of them finally came to a halt. Their faces were as pale as a sheet of paper. It was only when they had consumed a healing medicinal pill that their injuries were slightly healed. Who are you? The 3 men finally regained their senses. Their eyes were filled with horror and dread when they looked at Duan Ling Tian. The 3 of them were a demon emperor's direct disciples. However, they were easily sent flying by just one man. One could easily see that this man's cultivation base was at the martial emperor stage. He was either a demon emperor or a martial emperor. At this moment, Chi Yu had also consumed a healing medicinal pill, and his injury had eased up a little. Initially, he had thought he would definitely die today. It did not cross his mind that somebody would come to his rescue. When he felt a little better, he looked up at his savior. Thank you, dear Savio. However, he was stunned before he could even finish his sentence. He had recognized the purple-clad young man with just a glance. He looked completely similar compared to the past. If he really had to point out a difference, he would say it was his temperament that had changed. His current temperament appeared to be too profound to be understood. Duan Ling, Chi Yu's voice was filled with confusion as he stared at Duan Ling Tian in disbelief. Looking at how startled Chi Yu was that he could not even finish calling out his name, Duan Ling Tian smiled and interrupted him. Peak Master Chi Yu, it has been such a long time since we last met, I can't believe that when we meet again, you've already entered the peak of the martial monarch stage. So what if I'm already at the peak of the martial monarch stage? I'm still nothing compared to you. Chi Yu sighed. There was a complicated look in his eyes. When he had first met Duan Lingtian, his strength was completely insignificant. It was to the point that he could easily crush Duan Lingtian with just one finger with the strength he possessed at that time. He felt ashamed that his martial Dao innate talent was not as good as Duan Lingtian's. When they bade goodbye to each other at the entrance of the martial emperor's secret treasure, he already knew if he managed to encounter Duan Lingtian again in the future, he would definitely surprise him. However, he did not expect Duan Lingtian would give him such a huge shock when they finally met again. He knew his strength elevation could be considered as quite good. Currently, he had even made a breakthrough to the peak of the martial monarch stage. Only one more step was needed before he would be able to make a breakthrough to the martial emperor stage and become a martial emperor. Even so, he still could not compare to Duan Lingtian. There was no need to think about it too much. He knew that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had undoubtedly broken through to the martial emperor stage, otherwise, he would not be able to send the three attackers flying in just a blink of an eye. If there was only one of them, they would not have been a match for him at all. However, the three of them had joined forces, and he found it difficult to ward off the blows. Earlier, he was certain that he would die. Who knew someone would come to his rescue just in the nick of time? Moreover, that person turned out to be Duan Lingtian. The three of us are the direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu. I wonder which demon or martial emperor are you, sir? One of the three sturdy middle-aged men asked Duan Lingtian as he cupped his hands before his chest. When he mentioned Demon Emperor Man Wu, a hint of arrogance could be seen in his eyes. Demon Emperor Man Wu was one of the two strongest emperor stage powerhouses active on the surface of Cloud Continent. Among all of the demon emperors on Cloud Continent, he was second to none. No other demons could be compared to him. As the direct disciple of martial Emperor Man Wu, his heart was filled with pride. The direct disciple of Demon Emperor Man Wu. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at the three men as he said, "You're unworthy to know who I am. However, since you've injured Peak Master Chi Yu, then, your fate will be decided by him." Duan Lingtian was calm when he uttered these words even though it sounded outrageous. Chapter 1343. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, horror instantly dawned on the three direct disciples. Insane. Too insane. This was the only impression they had of the purple-clad young man standing before them. Peak Master Chi Yu, what do you want to do with them? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Chi Yu. Demon Emperor Man Wu's three direct disciples were horrified. Before Chi Yu could reply, they quickly snarled at Duan Lingtian and Chi Yu. "We're the direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu. If you dare to touch us, our master won't let you go." During this brief moment, one of them even tossed a communication jade slip out. At this point, this was all they could do. They did not dare to escape at all. If they tried to run away in front of this demon or martial emperor, their lives would definitely end in just a blink of an eye. "You actually toss out a communication jade slip too? To martial Emperor Man Wu?" Duan Lingtian remained calm and collected as he studied the three men with interest. The three men turned pale immediately when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. The reason they had snarled loudly earlier was to distract Duan Lingtian so that he would not notice the communication jade slip. However, it did not cross their minds that Duan Lingtian still managed to notice the communication jade slip. As the three of them turned pale, origin energies rose from their bodies as profundities trailed after it like a shadow. A hint of despair gleamed in their eyes as they stared at Duan Lingtian guardedly. Demon Emperor Man Wu. Chi Yu was instantly horrified. He had arrived at the inner land of Cloud Continent for quite some time now, so it was natural that he had also heard of Demon Emperor Man Wu before. He also knew Demon Emperor Man Wu was the strongest demon emperor on the entire Cloud Continent. It did not cross his mind that the three demon monarchs he was battling would be Demon Emperor Man Wu's three disciples. "Duan Lingtian, let's go." Chi Yu immediately sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian asking him to flee. In his opinion, even if Duan Lingtian was already a martial emperor, he still would not be a match for Demon Emperor Man Wu. After all, Demon Emperor Man Wu was the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent. However, Duan Lingtian appeared as though he did not hear Chi Yu's words at all. Instead, he continued studying the three men standing before him intently. It looks like you all really have great confidence in your master. In that case, I'll just wait for him to come. Wait for him to come. The moment these words left Duan Lingtian's mouth, horror dawned on Qi Yu's face once again. He truly felt that Duan Lingtian had gone crazy. As for the three men in front, they merely smirked coldly. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was digging his own grave. Time continued to pass by quietly. Qi Yu, whose heart was burning with anxiety, also slowly became numb. Why is Duan Lingtian still so calm at this moment? Don't tell me he actually knows that Demon Emperor Man Wu. Or does he think that Demon Emperor Man Wu won't attack him when he comes? Looking at how calm and collected Duan Lingtian was, Qi Yu could not come up with any plausible explanation at all. As for reasons like, Duan Lingtian can defeat Demon Emperor Man Wu, he did not even dare to think about it from the beginning until the end. He had subconsciously thought it was impossible. Time continued to pass by. After 30 minutes, Duan Lingtian suddenly lifted his head and looked at the horizon. At the same time, a figure as robust as a bull that appeared like a lofty tower appeared before his eyes. It was none other than Demon Emperor Man Wu, whom he had met a few times previously when they were overseas. What's going on? Demon Emperor Man Wu saw Duan Lingtian the moment he appeared. He frowned a little. He could smell the scent of his three direct disciples. Master. His three direct disciples first greeted him respectfully before they simultaneously looked at Duan Lingtian and said, Master, it's him. He wants to kill us. Master, he purposely waited for you to appear, it's quite obvious that he looks down on you. They said accusingly in an attempt to fan the flames. Demon Emperor Man Wu's face turned glum instantly when he heard this. Previously, the trip to Hidden Fog Island and Half Moon Island had cost him several outstanding direct disciples. Due to this reason, he regarded his few remaining direct disciples very highly. He was immediately enraged upon hearing that somebody wanted to kill his direct disciples. However, he did not lose his reason even though he was furious. His eyes began to look around as though he was searching for something. There's no need for you to look around. That person you dread is not here. Duan Lingtian, naturally, knew who Demon Emperor Man Wu was looking for. He was trying to ascertain if Han Shuinai was around or not. When Han Shuinai killed the first island master of Coral Island using the Dao Talisman, Demon Emperor Man Wu was there to witness the entire incident. Due to this reason, he was afraid of her. Upon hearing that Han Shuinai was not here, Demon Emperor Man Wu's expression turned aloof. He looked at Duan Lingtian with a piercing gaze and asked coldly, Duan Lingtian, don't you think you need to give me an explanation? Explanation? What explanation? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. You want to kill my direct disciples? Demon Emperor Man Wu enunciated each word clearly. His eyes looked extremely fierce. It was as though he was about to devour someone. So, Duan Lingtian asked nonchalantly. His tone was so casual that even Qi Yu was shocked. His entire person was covered with cold sweat. Duan Lingtian, it's better to know our own limitations. I admit you do indeed have good innate talent. However, you're nothing in front of me now, Demon Emperor Man Wu threatened in his deep voice. His face had turned even glummer when he reached the end of his sentence. That's right, we need to know our own limitations, however, I think we need to know even more of our limitations as a demon. What do you think, Martial Emperor Man Wu? Duan Lingtian asked calmly just like before. In the face of the fearless Duan Lingtian, the furious Demon Emperor Man Wu's heart jolted. As though a bucket of cold water had been poured on his head, he instantly became alert. What reason does he have to act so recklessly in front of me? Demon Emperor Man Wu immediately looked around the surroundings again. The moment Duan Lingtian saw Demon Emperor Man Wu's actions, he could not help but find it a little funny. However, he did not say anything to Demon Emperor Man Wu. Instead, he looked at Qi Yu and said, Peak Master Qi Yu, if you want to kill the three of them, I can do it for you anytime. The moment these words left Duan Lingtian's mouth, the three direct disciples of Demon Emperor Man Wu turned pale immediately. Qi Yu, on the other hand, was baffled. It had already come to this time, and Duan Lingtian still dared to say he wanted to kill Demon Emperor Man Wu's three direct disciples. Peak Master Qi Yu, since you didn't say anything, I'll take it as you've given your tacit consent. Since you've agreed to it, I'll kill the three of them to avenge you. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he looked at Demon Emperor Man Wu's three direct disciples coldly. You're just bluffing. After making sure there was no one around, Demon Emperor Manwu finally regained his senses and glared at Duan Lingtian furiously. When he realized Duan Lingtian intended to kill his 3 direct disciples, his face turned grave, and he charged out. However, he was too late. Bang, 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 as the sound of 3 explosions resonated in the air, Demon Emperor Manwu's 3 direct disciples instantly exploded into mists of blood. They only left behind 3 spatial rings and a pile of profundity fragments. After catching the spatial rings and profundity fragments, Duan Lingtian raised a hand and guided them to Qiyu using invisible energy. It was apparent that he wanted to give these loots to Qiyu. Duan Lingtian. Right at this moment, Demon Emperor Manwu, who was enraged after seeing his 3 direct disciples killed, almost went berserk. With a loud roar, he pounced directly at Duan Lingtian. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into a wild beast with a bloody maw. It was as though he would not rest until he managed to devour Duan Lingtian. Humph! Duan Lingtian snorted in his deep voice, and his expression remained unchanged when he saw Demon Emperor Manwu charging at him furiously. It was only when Demon Emperor Manwu arrived before him and the attack that swept across the sky had landed that Duan Lingtian finally made his move. With a raise of his hand, a strong bow appeared. In the next instant, he placed his hand on the bowstring. Whoosh! After the bowstring was pulled into the shape of a full moon, he let go of his hand. A loud thunderous noise echoed in the air and set off a vast rolling impact wave that soared through the sky as it clashed directly with Demon Emperor Manwu's attack. In an instant, Demon Emperor Manwu's attack was destroyed by the impact wave as it swept out. Moreover, the vast impact wave had also landed on Demon Emperor Manwu and sent him flying. It was only when he was sent flying several dozens of meters away that he finally came to a halt. He forced down the fresh blood that was bubbling up his throat. After catching his breath, he forcibly swallowed the blood back into his stomach. Even at this moment, he was still insistent on maintaining his image. However, his awfully pale countenance had given him away. After taking a deep breath and consuming a healing medicinal pill, Demon Emperor Manwu's injuries finally healed a little. When he regained his senses, he looked at Duan Lingtian with a hint of dread in his eyes. At this moment, he had completely dismissed the idea of seeking revenge for his 3 direct disciples. What a joke! Just the strength Duan Lingtian had demonstrated alone was something he could not contend with. No matter how hard he tried, he would only die in a horrible manner. Due to this reason, he decided to give up. Perhaps, this was the only way he could escape death. Duan Lingtian, I must have misunderstood the situation earlier. Come to think of it, it must be the 3 of them who had offended your friend, so your action in killing them is justified. In order to live, Demon Emperor Manwu decided to take the initiative and surrender. At this moment, he felt only bewilderment in his heart. He did not expect the purple-clad young man whom he did not pay much attention to had suddenly become even more powerful than him. The strength he had demonstrated was far stronger than anything he could demonstrate. Since it's a misunderstanding, then let's just leave this matter at that, Duan Lingtian replied. He did not intend to make things difficult for Demon Emperor Manwu. Yes, Demon Emperor Manwu quickly nodded. However, there's one thing I'd like you to do for me, Demon Emperor Manwu. I think you won't refuse me, right? Duan Lingtian said without beating around the bush. The 2 of them, who were all set for a showdown just a moment, spoke politely to each other. It was as though they were going to sit down and have an idle chat. Qiyu was stunned upon seeing this. Of course not. Demon Emperor Manwu immediately shook his head with a smile on his face. As for what was hidden behind that smile, only he alone would know. If you do me this favor, Demon Emperor Manwu, I'll definitely present you with a hefty reward when you're done. If you prove to be a big help, I'm even willing to give you Saint Stones as a token of gratitude, Duan Lingtian promised as he looked at Demon Emperor Manwu. Chapter 1344. Duan Lingtian promised Demon Emperor Manwu the Saint Stones. As long as Demon Emperor Manwu managed to find him a great number of materials that he needed, he was willing to present a Saint Stone to Demon Emperor Manwu. Naturally, Demon Emperor Manwu became instantly delighted. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he immediately bade them goodbye and left in a haste. Scoundrel, why didn't you just kill him? Li Fei frowned. She was angered by Demon Emperor Manwu's unbridled manner earlier. Well, letting him live is 1,000 times better than killing him. He's the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent, so his influence is extraordinary. If he's helping us to search for the materials, the efficiency will definitely be even higher, Duan Lingtian replied. With just an order from Demon Emperor Manwu, I think all the demons in the inner land of Cloud Continent will most likely do everything for him, Ka chimed in softly. That's exactly why I let him live. Duan Lingtian nodded. Whether it's the two great ancient clans or martial emperor Qingzan, their influence can be considered as quite big among human martial artists. However, those wild and intractable demons will never bother with them. Now that we have Demon Emperor Manwu's help, things will be different. This was also why Duan Lingtian was willing to promise Demon Emperor Manwu the Saint Stone. To all the demon beasts on Cloud Continent, Demon Emperor Manwu was undoubtedly like their emperor. Who would dare to disobey when the emperor had given out his order? Moreover, demon beasts were actually more adept at searching for those materials. They originally stayed in the barren mountains and trackless plains. Who knew if they had seen the materials before, so they might know where to look for it? Duan Lingtian was pouring all his heart and soul into fixing the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Naturally, he exerted all his efforts to do that was so he could fix the 7 treasures pagoda as soon as he could. According to Elder Huo the 3-legged golden crow, even if he only managed to fix the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he would already be able to obtain the celestial supreme treasure, the Jasper Celestial Sword. The Jasper Celestial Sword was an offensive celestial supreme treasure with a formidable force. Moreover, Duan Lingtian also learned that as long as the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was fixed, he could climb in from the 1st level to cultivate. The cultivation surrounding on the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was much better. The speed of the time passing was also very alarming. Even if he stayed on the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda for 3 days, only 1 day would pass outside of the pagoda. Due to this reason, whether it was for the sake of the Jasper Celestial Sword or for the sake of having a better cultivation ground, Duan Lingtian wanted to help Elder Huo fix the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda as soon as possible. Qiyu, who was standing at the side, was speechless for a long time. The gaze he had used to look at Duan Lingtian was extremely complicated. The arrogant and intractable young man that time had achieved so much at present, even Demon Emperor Manwu, the strongest demon emperor on Cloud Continent, was not a match for him at all. Peak Master Qiyu, how did you get into a fight with Demon Emperor Manwu's direct disciples? Duan Lingtian asked curiously as he looked at Qiyu. It's all because of this spirit weapon right here. Qiyu swung the narrow sword in his hand with a wry smile on his face. Although the narrow sword looked ordinary, the waves of sharp aura it was emitting seemed as though it could cut through anything. Duan Lingtian could tell it was a royal-grade spirit weapon with just a glance. After ransacking the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory, Duan Lingtian quickly found out that it was something the Rebirth Martial Emperor made last time. This sword is indeed a treasure. Duan Lingtian smiled. You can tell. Qiyu was slightly taken aback. After all, he had only found out about how amazing the sword was after he had used it. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded before switching the topic. Peak Master Qiyu, are you wandering the inner land alone? You didn't join a sect or a clan? No, Qiyu shook his head. I left the 5-element sect because I didn't want to be tied down. Besides, I've gotten used to wandering around throughout these few years. Yeah, it's quite nice actually. However, it's still better to be careful when wandering outside alone, especially with this sword in your hand now. You shouldn't carelessly reveal how amazing it is to other people in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Duan Lingtian reminded him. In the future, if you're tired of wandering around outside, you can always go to Lingtian sect, Peak Master Qiyu. Once you're there, just tell them you're my friend, Duan Lingtian added. Lingtian sect. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Qiyu's eyes narrowed immediately. The Lingtian sect, that's the strongest sect on Cloud Continent. I've long heard that the sect leader of Lingtian sect had gone missing, and the entire Lingtian sect is looking for him. Don't tell me you're actually the sect leader of Lingtian sect. Although Qiyu had previously heard the sect leader of Lingtian sect was also called Duan Lingtian, he thought it was only a coincidence. In his opinion, no matter how high Duan Lingtian's innate ability was, it was impossible for him to become the sect leader of the strongest sect in the entire Cloud Continent in such a short period of time. He had thought that person shared the same name with the Duan Lingtian that he knew. However, after hearing Duan Lingtian's words and recalling the strength Duan Lingtian had demonstrated earlier, he could tell the Duan Lingtian that he knew was the sect leader of Lingtian sect. That's right, Ling Tian sect is my sect. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Suddenly, he was hit by a pang of realization, and he continued saying, the two brothers, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi, are now in Ling Tian's sect too. The Nangong twins were the direct disciples of the sect leader of Five Element sect. They were originally at Lingzan Peak, the cultivation place of martial emperor Lingzan, Yongwei. However, according to Shui Nai, they had gone to Ling Tian's sect after that. I can't believe this, I can't believe this, it really did not cross my mind that you're actually the sect leader of the strongest sect on Cloud Continent, Duan Ling Tian, Chiyu mused as he shook his head. In the end, he asked solemnly, Duan Ling Tian, your current cultivation base should at least be at the 8th level Martial Emperor stage, right? As far as he knew, Demon Emperor Man Wu was at the 7th level Demon Emperor stage. Yes, Duan Ling Tian nodded. The two of them caught up with each other for a while before they finally bade farewell. Duan Ling Tian had even introduced the two girls to Qi Yu. He thought to himself, Duan Ling Tian, you're really a winner in life. Was that not the case? Not only was Duan Ling Tian's innate talent heaven-defying, but he was already standing on the summit of Cloud Continent at such a young age. Even his two fiancées were rare beauties as well. After bidding farewell to Qi Yu, Duan Ling Tian brought the two girls and continued to head toward the original base site of Yin Yang sect. Currently, it was still considered as Ling Tian sect site. However, it was only a branch site. This branch was managed by two people. Duan Ling Tian had learned about this from Han Shui Nai during their journey back. Those two people who refused to leave were Shang Quan and Gold Thug. Young Master. When Shang Quan and Gold Thug finally saw Duan Ling Tian again, they were overwhelmed with emotions. They had remained here because they resolutely believed Duan Ling Tian would definitely come back here again. Duan Ling Tian finally came like they had believed. Miss Ka, Miss Fair, Shang Quan greeted Ka and Li Fei politely when he saw them. He was not unfamiliar with Ka and Li Fei since he knew they were his young master's fiancés. For their sake, his young master spared no effort in searching for them even though it yielded no results. Liege ladies. Gold Thug finally regained his senses with Shang Quan's reminder, and he quickly paid his respect to Ka and Li Fei. Ka and Li Fei nodded their heads with a smile on their faces. However, anxiety could be seen in their eyes. Upon seeing how anxious the two girls were, Duan Ling Tian brought them to the wooden house that housed Yang Shui's body. Yang Shui's body was completely preserved due to the ice coffin. Senior sister. The moment the two girls saw the white-clad woman lying in the ice coffin, tears instantly streamed down their extremely beautiful and delicate faces. There was only regret on their face. After all, Yang Shui had died protecting them. Senior sister, scoundrel has already taken revenge for you, you can now rest in peace, Li Fei whispered. Senior sister, Sister Fair and IA are now living very well, don't worry, we'll live happily and we'll live up to your expectations. Ka remarked between sobs. Upon seeing this, Duan Ling Tian sighed and shook his head before he left the two of them alone. In the next few days, Duan Ling Tian did not disturb the two girls and let them accompany Yang Shui as they pleased. In addition to cultivating, he had also refined some pills for Shang Quan and Gold Thug during this time. As Duan Ling Tian's followers, Han Shui Nai did not mistreat them at all when she was the acting sect leader of Ling Tian sect. Due to this reason, both of their cultivation bases were not low as well. 10 days later, at the summit of the former Yang Peak of Yin Yang sect, currently Ling Tian Peak, three figures stood in a row. They were none other than Duan Ling Tian, Ka, and Li Fei. There were two tombstones erected in front of them. One of the tombstones belonged to Yang Shui while the other one belonged to the vice peak master of the former Yin Peak of Yin Yang sect. She was also Ka, Li Fei, and Yang Shui's master. This vice peak master of the former Yin Peak of Yin Yang sect was also the sister of Peak Master Qin Shang from 7-Star Sword sect. Duan Ling Tian had never met her before, but since she was the two girls' master and she had treated the two girls so well, he still paid his respect by bowing at her tombstone. As for Yang Shui's tombstone, Duan Ling Tian paid his respect solemnly. Senior sister Yang Shui, thank you. If wasn't because of your determination in protecting them at the cost of your life, I might not even have a chance to see these two girls at all. In the end, Duan Ling Tian took a deep bow. After burying Yang Shui safely, Ka and Li Fei stayed beside the grave for another 3 months. During these 3 months, they merely sat cross-legged in front of the tombstone and patiently guarded it. Duan Ling Tian's heart could not help but ache for them. The span of 3 months was enough for many things to happen. Duan Lingtian had become even more powerful now. He had successfully comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity and the 8th level fused profundity. Currently, I can be considered as having entered the peak of the martial Emperor stage, as long as I can use the sword profundity as the bridge and let the two great profundities merge with my bodies to open up the Saint Vein, I'll be able to enter the mortal shedding stage, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. A crooked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. A hint of delight could be seen in it. Chapter 1345. As for the fused profundity, Duan Lingtian still had no idea what it really was until now. Initially, the 5 monarch stage nature profundities had merged and become the fused profundity. The power of the fused profundity was so strong that it was comparable to an emperor stage profundity. In a state of confusion, Duan Lingtian decided to ask Elder Huo, the 3-legged golden crow, in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. After he entered the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, he noticed Elder Huo was hovering cross-legged in the air with his eyes closed. He did not know whether he was cultivating or just shutting his eyes to attain mental composure. When Duan Lingtian came in, Elder Huo immediately opened his eyes. Duan Lingtian quickly voiced out the question in his mind. Profundity. Elder Huo raised a brow. It was his first time hearing this term. Perhaps, the cultivation system in every place was different. Profundity was the term used on Cloud Continent. Maybe the other 2 mortal continents had a different term for it. It's this energy. With a raise of his hand, 5-colored energy took the form of a 5-colored light ball that hovered in the air. This is the fused profundity I'm talking about. And this is the sword profundity. Duan Lingtian raised the other hand. A translucent sword that emitted waves of sharp aura hovered above his palm as it continued to twirl. So this is the profundity that you speak of. After Elder Huo looked at it, he instantly nodded. These profundities are similar to the 5 elemental qi on planet Yanhuang. Once the 5 elemental qi enters a person's body completely, it'll activate his body's potential, and his strength will take a great leap forward. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately when he heard Elder Huo's words. His words were similar to the reason profundities existed. According to Han Shuinai, once the profundities merged with one's body completely, it would be able to open the Saint Vein. At that time, the profundities would become part of one's body, no longer a separate entity. This had the same concept as the 5 elemental qi mentioned by Elder Huo. It feels like your sword profundity has already reached the limit of the 5 elemental qi. As for the fused profundity, it seems like it's going to reach its limit soon as well. However, I can feel that it still has a huge potential that has yet to be discovered. Elder Huo's gaze landed on the 5-colored light ball hovering in the air. There was a hint of bafflement in his eyes. A huge potential. Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian's heart trembled for a moment before he thought to himself, don't tell me the fused profundity currently is only at the monarch stage and it can actually be raised up to the emperor stage. The more he pondered, the more disbelief he felt. Was this not too far-fetched? His fused profundity was already on par with the emperor stage profundity. If it could still be raised to the emperor stage fused profundity, then how powerful would it be? 10 times more than emperor stage profundities. What kind of concept was that? Duan Lingtian felt chills running down his spine when he thought about this. If it's possible, I hope you'll only make your breakthrough after you've completely discovered the potential of your fused profundity. At that time, the benefits that you get will be beyond the reach of any other ordinary person, Elder Huo finally said after he pondered deeply for a moment. After I've completely discovered the potential of my fused profundity. Duan Lingtian frowned. If the fused profundity was only at the 8th level monarch stage profundity, then, wouldn't he need to comprehend it until the 9th level emperor stage profundity if he wanted to discover the potential of his fused profundity? Going to the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity from the 8th level monarch stage fused profundity. My goodness, how long would that take? However, Duan Lingtian believed Elder Huo's words either way. Who was he? He was the 3-legged golden crow. The divine sunbird from the ancient mythology in his past life. To be honest, such a creature had no reason to deceive him at all. Moreover, he was now the owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. As the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, by right, Elder Huo would never harm him at all, nor did he have any reason to. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian voiced out his concern that it would take too long for him to comprehend it until the 9th level emperor stage fused profundity. The time you'll need to spend is indeed a little long, however, you can stay in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to cultivate since time passes slowly in here. Elder Huo told Duan Lingtian, on the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, 2 days inside are equivalent to a day outside. Moreover, if you can find enough materials, I'll be able to fix the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. At that time, 3 days inside will be equivalent to a day outside. Yeah, I guess that's the only solution now. Duan Lingtian nodded. He decided not to use the 9th level sword profundity as the bridge to open up the saint vein hidden inside his body for now. He would only open it after he had comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity. Fused profundity, I hope that you'll surprise me at that time. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He knew that once he had made his decision, he was destined to open the saint vein at a much later time to enter the mortal shedding stage. At the same time, a strong premonition rose up in Duan Lingtian's heart. Perhaps his decision would affect the number of saint veins he would be able to open in the future. In this case, I might stand a chance to win Bastard. Bastard managed to open 23 saint veins at the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage. Even when Shui Nai reached the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage in the future, it would almost be impossible for her to open 23 saint veins. The most she'll be able to open is 22 saint veins. The bastard Duan Lingtian spoke of was none other than Wang Ba, the current Yang who had left Half Moon Island to journey to the Dao Martial Saint Land. He had so much faith in himself because he was no longer the old him. Currently, in addition to having undergone 2 rebirths, his body's foundation was extremely strong too. What a joke! In terms of a strong foundation, what else could be stronger than the fused profundity? How interesting! If I can really open 81 saint veins, it'll be perfect. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone as he daydreamed even though he felt it was a little far-fetched. In fact, there were only 3 people who managed to open up to 81 saint veins in the long history of Dao Martial Saint Land. Although he had never experienced it, he could imagine how difficult it was. After listening to Elder Huo's advice, and after he made up his mind, Duan Lingtian focused on comprehending the fused profundity. At this time, comprehending the fused profundity was the only thing he could do. Be it his cultivation base or his sword profundity, both had reached their limit for now and could no longer be raised. What a coincidence, the sword Dao that originated from the word sword in my mind has also been depleted when I comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. Duan Lingtian muttered, it looks like it's time for me to go back and have a look at the word sword. I wonder if my sword profundity will continue to progress if I look at the word sword again and comprehend more sword Dao. When it came to the sword profundity, Duan Lingtian had comprehended it to the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. By right, he had already reached the limit. However, in Duan Lingtian's opinion, the word sword did not adhere to normal logic. He had had a strong feeling about this. After the 2 girls stayed by Yang Shui's grave for 3 months, they finally left and returned to Duan Lingtian's side. Let's go back to the southern outer land. After informing the 2 girls and bidding farewell to Shang Quan and Gold Thug, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls along with him and left. Although Shang Quan and Gold Thug wanted to leave together with Duan Lingtian, they quickly dismissed the idea the moment they thought about Ka and Li Fei. After all, would they not disrupt the atmosphere if they went with them? Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls with him and quickly passed through the boundless Ruo Shui River before they finally reached the southern outer land. After returning to the southern outer land, he was beset with memories at the sight of the place and sighed. At this moment, he remembered the Lu clan who was annihilated by the Han clan. He used to stay in the Lu clan for a period of time previously. However, it was gone just like that. Ka and Li Fei did not say a word at all. They only quietly stayed by Duan Lingtian's side. There was no need for words at this moment. If the Han clan's disciple who had annihilated the Lu clan was still alive, Duan Lingtian would immediately find him to seek revenge. However, the problem was that Han clan's disciple had already been killed by Shui Nai. Due to this reason, he could only cherish the memory he had with the former Lu clan. As long as Lu Bai is still around, the Lu clan is not completely annihilated. When I return this time, I'll help him rebuild the Lu clan again. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was reminded of Lu Bai. Lu Bai was the second young master of Lu clan. He was also the only remaining survivor in the Lu clan after it was annihilated. After that, he had crossed Ruo Shui River to the inner land before entering Lingtian sect to become a Lingtian sect's disciple. After letting out another long sigh, Duan Lingtian brought the 2 girls with him and left the northern divergent land of the southern outer land. With Duan Lingtian's current speed, It did not take him long before he arrived at a familiar place. The Northern Desert. That time, when he left the Darken Dynasty for the first time, the first place he went was the Northern Desert. He had joined the martial competition of the 10 dynasties organized by Skywolf Fort, a third-rate force in the Northern Desert. When the martial competition of the 10 dynasties began, it was also when he truly walked up the stage of Cloud Continent. Looking back at the past, Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh even though he had already been through 2 reincarnations. They did not stay in the Northern Desert. Duan Lingtian proceeded to bring the 2 girls back to Darken Dynasty, the Darkstone Empire, the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and finally, 7-Star Sword Sect. After so many years, the 7 sword peaks that soared up to the sky in 7-Star Sword Sect's base site had also returned to its original look. There were no signs that showed it had been destroyed before. Hovering high above the sky, Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 sword peaks as a hint of nostalgia flashed through his eyes. As for the 2 girls by his side, tears already welled up in their eyes as their delicate bodies began to tremble slightly from the overwhelming emotions. They had left this place for far too long. That time when they had left, it did not cross their minds that they would leave for more than 10 years. Chapter 1346. Ka, go meet Peak Master Qin Shang. I'm sure she must have missed you a lot during all these years, Duan Lingtian told Ka. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Ka immediately nodded her head. When she flew out, she instantly entered Dubi Peak, the first peak of the 7 great sword peaks. Scoundrel, I want to erect a tombstone for Master and Senior Sister, Li Fei whispered. Although she already learned from Duan Lingtian that the sect leader of 7-Star Sword Sect, Elder Bai, and Senior Sister Zuo Qing had already died, she still felt a little sad as the scene in front reminded her of her old haunts. I've set up the tombstones before this, it's at the former cultivation place of Elder Bai, Duan Lingtian replied. That time, when the 7-Star Sword Sect was being rebuilt, he and the current sect leader of 7-Star Sword Sect, Mo Yu, had already erected a tombstone for the group of 7-Star Sword Sect's officials. Scoundrel. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, sorrow that rose from the bottom of Li Fei's heart immediately overwhelmed her. Throwing herself into Duan Lingtian's arms, tears flowed down in 2 streaks and dampened Duan Lingtian's robe. However, Duan Lingtian did not mind it at all. With one hand hugging her, the other hand stroked her soft and smooth back. Little Fei, I'm sure Elder Bai and Senior Sister Zuo Qing wouldn't want to see you in such a state. Under Duan Lingtian's reassurance, Li Fei's emotions began to calm down. After that, the 2 of them went to Alcade Peak, the former cultivation place of Elder Bai. Although nobody had stayed at Elder Bai's former cultivation place during all these years, the environment there was still as good as before. It was obvious somebody had been coming here to trim the plants and flowers. Mo Yu is quite considerate. Duan Lingtian nodded his head. He knew it had to be Mo Yu who had sent people here to trim the plants and flowers. 2 tombstones stood in front of the wooden house. It was the tombstones for Elder Bai and her disciple, Zuo Qing, from Alcade Peak. Standing in front of the tombstone, Li Fei whispered, Master, Senior Sister, Scoundrel has already taken revenge for you and rebuilt 7-Star Sword Sect. Both of you can now rest in peace. Tears were streaming down her face, making her look extremely pitiful. Standing by the side, Duan Lingtian looked at the 2 tombstones in front as well. It seemed as though he was in a daze. At this moment, the scene of 7-Star Sword Sect being annihilated was playing in his mind. Even until now, his heart could not help but tremble when he recalled the past event. Although he had sought revenge for them, there was no way for them to reincarnate. They had left him in 7-Star Sword Sect forever. Without making any sound, Duan Lingtian bowed deeply toward Elder Bai and Zuo Qing's tombstones. Elder Bai, Senior Sister Zuo Qing, you all can rest assured. I'll take good care of little Fei, Duan Lingtian said to the 2 tombstones. After paying their respect to Elder Bai and Zuo Qing, Duan Lingtian and Li Fei left Alcade Peak and returned to the sky above where they had first arrived. When they arrived, Duan Lingtian discovered Ka had also returned. A familiar figure stood beside her. It was Qin Shang, the Peak Master of Alcade Peak in 7-Star Sword Sect. Qin Shang did not change much compared to before. This also meant she took good care of her appearance. In fact, only someone who had made a breakthrough to the Martial Monarch stage would remain youthful forever. Before reaching the Martial Monarch stage, it was said that the aging process would become slower when one's cultivation base was higher. However, if one did not deliberately take good care of one's own look, age would still leave its mark on the face. Duan Lingtian, why you really don't plan to go see the sect master? Qin Zhang's gaze was very complicated when she saw Duan Lingtian. Earlier, Ka had told her about Duan Lingtian's accomplishments throughout the years. She also found out he was the sect leader of the strongest sect on Cloud Continent. She was completely baffled. This little guy from before was currently standing at the summit of Cloud Continent. The moment she recalled the past, she felt as though she was dreaming. If they know about this in their graves, they'll definitely die contented, Qin Shang thought to herself. She meant were all the former sect masters of 7-Star Sword Sect, including Lingu Jinhong. They were also the people who had perished together with 7-Star Sword Sect. Not for the time being. 7-Star Sword Sect will always be the 7-Star Sword Sect, Duan Lingtian said as he shook his head. All right, Qin Shang nodded. Naturally, she knew what Duan Lingtian meant by this. There was no doubt that he meant he did not want to interfere with 7-Star Sword Sect's future. If the people from 7-Star Sword Sect knew Duan Lingtian was now the sect master of Lingtian Sect, the strongest sect on Cloud Continent, they would definitely hope for 7-Star Sword Sect to be affiliated with Lingtian Sect. At that time, 7-Star Sword Sect would become an affiliate sect of Lingtian Sect and cease to exist except in name. That was not something Duan Lingtian wanted to see. Master, you really don't want to leave with me? Ka was reluctant to part with Qin Shang. Although her current cultivation base had far surpassed Qin Shang, as the saying went, he who teaches me for one day is my teacher for life. She would never forget the debt she owed her for her past guidance and teaching. Ka had already tried to persuade Qin Shang to leave earlier, but she had rejected the offer. Ka, I know you want to be filial, however, I've spent most of my life in 7-Star Sword Sect so I really can't bear to leave it now, she replied softly as she held Ka's hands tenderly. When you and Duan Lingtian have kids, I'll be happy enough if you still remember to come back and visit me. Upon hearing Qin Zhang's words, Ka blushed immediately. Under the gaze of Qin Shang, Duan Lingtian brought the two girls with him before he left. In just a blink of an eye, they had already appeared at the sky above the Crimson Sky Kingdom that was under the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's colony. The Crimson Sky Kingdom was their hometown. The reason he came here was very simple. It was to visit his old friends and ask them if they wanted to leave with them to Half Moon Island of the Overseas Saint Islands. Duan Lingtian brought the two girls to the Imperial City's Divine Might Marquis estate first to pay a visit to the two old marquises. There were two marquises because Ni Wu Tian, the former old marquis, had retired, and the current old marquis was Ni Fen, the former little marquis. He was also Duan Lingtian's big brother Ni. Time flowed like a river, bringing great changes along with it. Their return this time really made Duan Lingtian feel emotional. Not only did Ni Fen have a huge family of his own, but even Xiao Yu and Xiao Xuan had a son and daughter each. What was worth mentioning was Li Zan, also known as Fatty previously, had 3 sons and 1 daughter as well. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian also went to the Imperial Palace and paid a visit to the old emperor. The valiant emperor from before had become older with each passing day. He had given away the throne a few years ago. Duan Lingtian, do you know when Bai Yao will return? The old emperor asked Duan Lingtian with a pair of eager eyes. The Bai Yao the old emperor spoke of was none other than Princess Bai Yao, the most beautiful woman in the Crimson Sky Kingdom Imperial City in the past. I've no idea, however, if I meet her, I'll definitely ask her to come back and see you, Duan Lingtian replied. Great, great. Upon hearing this, the old emperor smiled dazzlingly. Princess Bai Yao was his most sensible daughter, and he loved her very much. Even those princes were nothing compared to her. If Princess Bai Yao was born a male, he would have long given her the throne. My parents are really, they actually brought Princess Bai Yao away with them. The moment Duan Lingtian recalled where Princess Bai Yao was, he could not help but smile wryly. Not only Princess Bai Yao, but his parents had also brought Xiao Lan, Xiao Yu's sister, with them as well. Previously, when he met Xiao Yu, he had also asked him about Xiao Lan's whereabouts. However, he really did not know. To be more precise, although he knew she was at the Dao Martial Saint Land, he did not know which part of the Dao Martial Saint Land she was in. It's such a pity the voice transmission jade slip inside the exquisite jade box was broken by me, otherwise, when I arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land, I'll only need to meet with the man father arranged for me before I can see mother, Xiao Lan, and also Princess Bai Yao. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, he sighed continuously in his heart. Originally, in the voice transmission jade slip that Duan Rufeng left him, he had asked Duan Lingtian to go to a certain place in the Dao Martial Saint Land to find the person he had arranged for him to meet. Unfortunately, the voice transmission jade slip was damaged and the part that was lost just happened to be the most important part. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not know where to find the person his father had arranged for him to meet. Even if Duan Lingtian was at the Dao Martial Saint Land now, searching for his father would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. After leaving the Imperial Palace, Duan Lingtian went to the Paladin Academy to see Sima the Dean. Sima was his teacher when he was in the Paladin Academy. Although Sima did not really teach him anything, he had helped him on many occasions. Until now, Duan Lingtian still felt grateful toward him. Due to this reason, he still regarded him as a teacher. "You little fellow, what's your cultivation base now?" Sima asked bluntly when he saw Duan Lingtian again. Every time he met Duan Lingtian, this was what he was most interested in. 9th level Martial Emperor stage. Duan Lingtian smiled. PFF'd. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Sima instantly spat out the tea he had just drank and asked with a red face, What did you say? Martial E Emperor stage. Moreover, it's the 9th level Martial E Emperor stage. Yes, sir. Duan Lingtian nodded solemnly. Upon hearing this, Sima quickly studied Duan Lingtian from head to toes. As though he was looking at a monster, he muttered, I already knew long before that you're a freak, but it did not cross my mind that you're actually this freaky. The 9th level Martial Emperor stage, that's the limit for all martial artists, right? Sima had long heard that the limit for martial artists was the Martial Emperor stage. Once a person had broken through to the Martial Emperor stage, he would become a Martial Emperor. A Martial Emperor was someone who stood at the summit of Cloud Continent and overlooked all living things. To him, Martial Emperors were legendary. However, the little fellow currently standing in front of him, his former student, was already a Martial Emperor. Moreover, he was a 9th level Martial Emperor. At this moment, he suspected that he was merely dreaming. If it was not for the fact that Duan Lingtian was present and he needed to maintain his image, he would have long reached out to pinch his own thigh to see if it would hurt or not. Chapter 1347. Previously, I also thought the 9th level Martial Emperor stage is the limit for a martial artist, but as it turns out, this is not the case. Duan Lingtian sighed. What do you mean? Don't tell me there are people more powerful than Martial Emperors. Sima asked with eyes as wide as saucers. In his opinion, Martial Emperors were legendary and invincible. However, Duan Lingtian just told him that the 9th level Martial Emperor stage was not the limit. He had implied that there was an even more powerful force other than a 9th level Martial Emperor. Teacher, a 9th level Martial Emperor is indeed someone who stands at the summit of Cloud Continent. However, there's an even bigger world outside of Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian continued to patiently explain to Sima, who was in a daze. He was extremely shocked. When Duan Lingtian finished explaining, Sima sighed and mocked himself. Ignorance, looks like Sima is ignorant. Well, you should say that 99% of the people on Cloud Continent are ignorant, and this includes the former me as well. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Teacher, the reason I came back this time is mainly to ask if all of you are interested in going to the overseas Saint Islands or not. With my help and the help of the top-grade cultivation environment over there, your strength will improve by leaps and bounds. Duan Lingtian's voice was filled with temptation. You'll at least make it to the Martial Monarch stage. It's not impossible for you to make a breakthrough to the Martial Emperor stage as well. Martial Monarch stage. Sima's breathing quickened when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. See, can I really? Why not? Don't forget you're Duan Lingtian's teacher after all. Duan Lingtian replied and smiled confidently. If it was someone else, Duan Lingtian would not be so confident. However, Sima's innate talent and comprehension ability were originally high. With his help, it would not be difficult for him to break through to the Martial Monarch stage. In fact, it was not impossible for him to break through to the Martial Emperor stage as well. Even if he had a slightly bad innate talent, so what? It was not a problem. There was a record in the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory about the location of the 10,000-year stalactite milk. If he retrieved the 10,000-year stalactite milk, he would be able to let Sima experience a rebirth, and grant him the highest innate talent a martial artist on Cloud Continent could have. How about a slightly bad comprehension ability? Not a problem as well. He had all kinds of concept and profundity fragments. Alright, I'll go with you. Seema's face was full of smiles as he said emotionally, in my entire life, I've only focused on the martial Tao. Until now, I'm not married, and I'm all alone in the world. If my cultivation base can break through to the martial monarch stage, then everything wouldn't have been in vain. Seema had no commitments so, in just a few exchanges, he instantly agreed to leave with Duan Lingtian. As for the others, they all had their own commitments. Due to this, there was only one additional person when they left. There were 4 people who left even though only 3 arrived. Seema was the additional person. Duan Lingtian respected the decisions of those who were unwilling to leave. In the future when he was free, he would come back to visit them again. At that time, he would bring them with him if they wanted to leave as well. After leaving the Crimson Sky Kingdom, Duan Lingtian and the group arrived at the sky high above a remote forest in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Soon after, Ka, Li Fei, and Seema descended under Duan Lingtian's guidance. When the 3 of them landed on the ground, all of them narrowed their eyes. They instantly fell into a daze. This was because they had seen the word, sword, on the canyon wall in front and were attracted by it. It was as though their souls had been instantly sucked out. The huge word, sword, was carved and left behind by Feng Qingyong, the sword saint. This word, sword, contained his sword Dao. It was precisely because of the superficial knowledge from the word, sword, that Duan Lingtian managed to comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity in a short period of time. The 9th level Emperor stage profundity was also the peak of the profundity. Lingtian boy. Suddenly, a familiar voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. When Duan Lingtian saw a red-robed middle-aged man sitting cross-legged as he cultivated with his eyes closed had been awoken by them, he smiled and greeted, Uncle Feng. The red-robed middle-aged man was none other than Feng Wudao, Feng Tianwu's father. There, Feng Wudao stood up and immediately looked at Ka, Li Fei, and Seema who were by Duan Lingtian's side. His eyes were filled with curiosity. Uncle Feng, they're my fiancés. I've mentioned them to you previously. As for him, he's my teacher from my hometown. Duan Lingtian introduced them with a smile on his face. All right, Feng Wudao nodded and continued to study the 2 girls solemnly. When he saw their unparalleled beauty, he could not help but fall deep into his own thoughts. Both of them were in no way inferior to his daughter, Feng Tianwu, in regards to beauty. Lingtian boy, where's Tianwu? She didn't come back with you? Feng Wudao asked. The moment Duan Lingtian heard Feng Wudao mentioned, Feng Tianwu, a guilty look appeared on his face immediately. Uncle Feng, I'm sorry, I'm at fault for not taking good care of Tianwu. What happened to her? An ominous feeling rose up in Feng Wudao's heart and horror dawned on his face immediately when he saw Duan Lingtian apologizing to him with a guilty expression. At the same time, the red robe on his body began to flutter. Origin energy soared up into the sky and transformed into a sword-shaped flame that emitted waves of sharp aura. It was as though it could cut through everything. Don't worry, Uncle Feng. Tianwu's all right, Duan Lingtian immediately reassured him. He could see that Feng Wudao had misunderstood. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's reassurance, Feng Wudao finally eased up. The sword-shaped flame on his body began to dissipate as well. Then, what do your words mean? Uncle Feng, I said I didn't take good care of Tianwu because, Duan Lingtian interrupted Feng Wudao and recounted everything that had happened to him. He told him everything except for the part about the Devil Seal tablet being a super saint weapon in the Dao Martial Saint Land's 10 Great Saint Weapons rankings. Feng Wudao learned about what happened to Feng Tianwu and found out she had been taken as a disciple by a force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian also told Feng Wudao about the Dao Martial Saint Land, shocking him and making him feel ignorant. After knowing Feng Tianwu was safe, Feng Wudao heaved a sigh of relief. Uncle Feng, I'm going to the Dao Martial Saint Land after I settle my affairs on Cloud Continent. At that time, I'll definitely search for Feng Tianwu, Duan Lingtian told Feng Wudao solemnly. Due to this reason, you can rest assured, Uncle Feng. I'll definitely find Tianwu. Don't worry, as long as Tianwu's safe, she'll definitely come back to visit, Feng Wudao replied. Duan Lingtian nodded. Duan Lingtian did not see any other person around, so he looked at Feng Wudao and asked, oh, yeah. Uncle Feng, where's Erhu? Erhu was the boy in Shangquan's village. He was also the only person in Shangquan's village who knew about the secret here. That Erhu boy always wanders around outside when he's idle. Right now, he can already be considered as the strongest person in both the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and the Darkstone Empire. Feng Wudao smiled. Chapter 1348. The sword Dao contained in the word, sword, had attracted Ka, Li Fei, and Sima's attention. They were completely immersed in it. It was as though they were intoxicated. Above the canyon and the big green tree, an inconspicuous little pagoda was erected above a dried branch. This little pagoda was none other than Duan Lingtian's 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian, who was cultivating at the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, suddenly jolted awake. During this period of time, he had been quietly comprehending the fused profundity. Apart from that, he had also looked at the word, sword. However, the word no longer imparted complicated and obscure message into his mind. Due to this reason, he could no longer store the sword Dao contained in the word, sword, in his mind. Don't tell me it's because I've already comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. But this doesn't seem right. According to the message left behind by Feng Qingyang the Sword Saint, those who manage to fully comprehend the sword Dao in the word, sword, that he left behind will be able to roam freely in the Dao Martial Saint land. After trying for a few days, Duan Lingtian did not find any solution at all. In the end, he could only give up and focus on comprehending the fused profundity. In just 4 months, Duan Lingtian had 2 breakthroughs in the fused profundity. The first time, he made a breakthrough to the 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity from the 8th level Monarch stage fused profundity. The 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity was equivalent to the 9th level Emperor stage profundity. Once it was cast, the strength was so powerful that it was equivalent to the strength of 10 ancient black dragons. The second time, his 9th level Monarch stage fused profundity made a breakthrough to the 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity. As for its strength, it was now 100% stronger than before. It was equivalent to the strength of 20 ancient black dragons. The 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity that I comprehended is 10 times stronger compared to an ordinary 1st level Emperor stage profundity. When I comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, it has to be 10 times stronger compared to an ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity as well. An ordinary 9th level Emperor stage profundity was equivalent to the strength of 10 ancient black dragons. This was similar to Duan Lingtian's 9th level Emperor stage sword profundity. And once Duan Lingtian had comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, the strength contained inside would be equivalent to 100 ancient black dragons. The strength of 100 ancient black dragons. What kind of concept was that actually? Even if a powerhouse at the peak of the martial Emperor stage uses a royal grade spirit weapon and unleashes his full strength, it'll only be equivalent to the strength of 60 or 70 ancient black dragons, which is considered very astounding. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when he thought about this. As for me, once I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity, just by using it alone is enough for me to kill anyone at the peak of the martial Emperor stage, he thought to himself as his breathing quickened. Killing a powerhouse at the peak of the martial Emperor stage who had unleashed his full strength with just 1 profundity, just thinking about this sent chills running up Duan Lingtian's spine. I've only comprehended the 1st level Emperor stage fused profundity. There's still a long way to go before I comprehend the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity. Duan Lingtian quickly calmed himself down. Even then, he did not remain calm for very long when he thought of another matter. If I can merge the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity with my body and open the Saint vein, the effects will definitely be better. I wonder when I break through to the mortal shedding stage, how many Saint veins will I be able to open? I'm really looking forward to that. Duan Lingtian still remembered the things Shui Nai told him previously. According to her, martial and Dao cultivators from the mortal continents had a much stronger foundation compared to the natives of the Dao martial Saint land. Their cultivation base would accumulate with time, and by the time they break through to the mortal shedding stage, it would explode beyond control. 4 months. Duan Lingtian was shocked when he learned from Elder Huo that he had been cultivating for 4 months. It has actually been so long. Ka and Little Fayer must be awake now. 4 months inside the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda are equal to 2 months outside. Elder Huo, who sat cross-legged nearby, reminded him when he saw him standing up in haste. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly. He finally remembered that time inside the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda flowed differently from the outside world. 2 days inside were equivalent to 1 day outside. Since Duan Lingtian missed the 2 girls, he left the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda with just a thought. When he noticed Ka, Li Fei, and Sima had still not awakened, he shook his head. Judging from their current condition, I'm afraid I'll still have to wait for a while. After glancing at the side of the canyon, Duan Lingtian discovered Feng Wudao's eyes were closed as he attained mental composure. He did not bother him and entered the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda again. Elder Huo, let me know when 6 months have passed, Duan Lingtian said to Elder Huo before he sat down cross-legged to cultivate again. From his observation earlier, Duan Lingtian could tell the two girls would need some time before they would awaken. This awakening would only be their first awakening. He had told them once they had awakened for the first time, they would need to familiarize themselves with the benefit from the word, sword, before they memorized the sword Tao contained in the word so they could comprehend it in the future. This was similar to what he did previously. Only when they had fully memorized the sword Tao contained in the word, sword, would he bring them away from here. Naturally, this applied to Sima as well. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian estimated the three of them would need at least several months to complete these 2 steps. Duan Lingtian continued to immerse himself in his cultivation. He fully devoted himself to comprehending the fused profundity, the Emperor stage nature profundity fragments depleted quickly in his hands. With every 10 or 15 days, an Emperor stage profundity fragment would shatter. If somebody saw this, they would definitely find this wasteful and call Duan Lingtian a spendthrift. However, all these were nothing to Duan Lingtian. When he was in Half Moon Island, Di Yong, the former island master of Half Moon Island, had absorbed the vital essence of powerhouses at their prime using devil technique and turned them into dried corpses. Some of the powerhouses had left behind Emperor stage profundity fragments. After they died, the profundity fragments in their bodies had all been taken by Duan Lingtian. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian could afford using so many Emperor stage profundity fragments. If it was someone else, that person would most likely have a headache right now. The path to comprehending the fused profundity was like a bottomless abyss. Initially, the Emperor stage nature profundity fragments depleted at the speed of 1 fragment every 2 weeks. However, in the end, it became 1 fragment every 10 days. As time went on, it became 1 fragment every 8, 7, 6, and 5 days. When the Emperor stage nature profundity fragment began to shatter every 3 days, Elder Huo called out to Duan Lingtian. 6 months have passed so quickly. Duan Lingtian asked in confusion when he woke up. To him, it felt like only a few days had passed. 3 months have gone by outside, Elder Huo reminded him. 3 months, looks like it's about time. Duan Lingtian chuckled before leaving the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda again. This time, after he left, he shrank the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda and threw it into his ears before he rose up into the air. He was in an extremely good mood. After comprehending for 6 months, his fused profundity had taken another 2 leaps forward. Currently, he had successfully comprehended the 3rd level Emperor stage fused profundity. They're going to wake up soon. After looking at Ka, Li Fei, and Sima, Duan Lingtian could tell they had almost fully memorized the sword Tao contained in the word, sword, since he had experienced it before. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian soared up into the air, and a soundless wave swept out before it propelled him upward like a rocket. After reaching a certain height, a 5-colored flame burst out from Duan Lingtian's body and emitted waves of ferocious aura. It was the fused profundity. As the 5-colored flame soared up above Duan Lingtian's head, the heaven and earth energy whirled and set off a series of thunderous sounds. Soon after, the heaven and earth phenomenon began to solidify into form. 46 silhouettes of ancient black dragons spiraled as they descended vividly in an overbearing manner. With the strength I currently possessed, even if I don't use the Saint-grade martial tactic, I can easily defeat a powerhouse at the peak of the martial emperor stage providing they did not cultivate the Saint-grade martial tactic. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as his eyes shone, if I use my Saint-grade martial tactic, I'm basically almost invincible against all those below the mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian was very confident about this. Naturally, he was being conservative, that was why he used the word, almost. In his opinion, unless there was a powerhouse at the peak of the void who had cultivated a technique in the human rank primitive Saint-grade martial tactic to the highest stage, nobody was his opponent at all. It was almost impossible for a powerhouse at the peak of the martial emperor stage to meet those conditions. What a marvelous world, no. What a marvelous planet. Only Cloud Continent and the surrounding sea region allows the heaven and earth energy to consolidate into the heaven and earth phenomenon. Once we leave the surrounding region of Cloud Continent and arrive overseas, the heaven and earth energy won't consolidate into the heaven and earth phenomenon at all, no matter how strong one is, Duan Lingtian mused emotionally. Casting everything aside, Just this fact alone was amazing enough. Just as Duan Lingtian had predicted, Ka, Little Fair, and Sima began to wake up one by one a few days later. Their strength had more or less been raised. Duan Lingtian prepared to bring them back to the Cloud Continent's inner land and to the new site of Lingtian sect. He had only heard about the new site from Han Shuinai, he had not been there before. Uncle Feng, leave with us. Duan Lingtian motioned to Feng Wudao. In the next period of time, I'll be making preparations to move Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island in the overseas Saint Islands. The cultivation environment there is much better. Feng Wudao had heard of Duan Lingtian's achievement on Cloud Continent. He had also learned that the cultivation environment in Half Moon Island was very good. Due to this reason, he agreed to leave together with Duan Lingtian. However, who's going to protect this canyon if I leave? Who's not here as well? Feng Wudao asked. Chapter 1349. Don't worry about it, Uncle Feng, Duan Lingtian said with a smile. Feng Wudao watched skeptically as Duan Lingtian hovered above the canyon and set up an inscription formation that covered the entire canyon. Duan Lingtian was currently at the 9th level Martial Emperor stage, and his spiritual energy had reached 9th level Martial Emperor stage as well. It was only natural the inscription formation that was set up with his spiritual energy was powerful. Most importantly, Duan Lingtian had placed 10 saint stones in the inscription formation as its energy source. Unless it's someone above the 7th level Martial Emperor stage, it's impossible to break this inscription formation, Duan Lingtian thought to himself after setting up the inscription formation. This was not a joke. He had set up an inscription formation using 10 saint stones. What were saint stones? It was an amazing item that could help Martial Emperor powerhouses to elevate their abilities quickly. It was similar to origin stones but incomparable. Duan Lingtian was so generous, not because he was the island master of Half Moon Island, and he could just take saint stones from Half Moon Island's supreme grade origin stones reserve. He only did that because Shuinai gave him many saint stones. According to Shuinai, saint stones were very common in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Although it was common, it was not easily obtained. It was extremely difficult for mortal stage martial cultivators and Dao cultivators without a powerful background to obtain a saint stone. It was only natural Shuinai had many saint stones in her hands because of the powerful force behind her. Therefore, Duan Lingtian did not even blink when he used 10 saint stones to set up the inscription formation. Similar to what the people from Earth love to say, you can do whatever you want when you have money. After setting up the inscription formation, Duan Lingtian and the others left the canyon. The original group of 4 turned to a group of 5. While the 4 of them cultivated, Duan Lingtian brought them away from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and entered the Darkstone Empire. They headed north before they finally arrived at the Darken Dynasty. When they entered the Darken Dynasty, Duan Lingtian dropped by the Imperial City. Initially, he wanted to ask Zhang Shouyang if he was interested in leaving with him. However, he was told that Zhang Shouyang had left the Imperial City with his wife last year when he arrived at the Zhang clan estate. I wonder where big brother Zhang went. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. He was grateful to Zhang Shouyang for saving his life back then. He did not forget the good deed until now. I'll try my luck again and see if I'm able to meet big brother Zhang when I drop by next time. I'll drop by Blade Sect now, Duan Lingtian thought to himself and came up with a plan. Blade Sect was a third-rate force on the southern area of the northern desert. It was the sect that Duan Lingtian's childhood friend, Su Li, belonged to. Su Li was the reason he was making a stop at Blade Sect. However, to his surprise, he found out Su Li had left Blade Sect with Sword 13 right after he had left back then. Why didn't they look for me? Duan Lingtian's smile looked forced when he recalled the conflict that arose in Blade Sect back then and the promise he had made Su Li and his master. Just like Zhang Shouyang, Duan Lingtian had no idea where Su Li and Sword 13 went. Duan Lingtian was disappointed he only returned with 4 people to Cloud Continent's inner land. I've spent 10 months in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, that means 5 months have passed by outside. Adding up the remaining time, it's been half a year since I returned to Cloud Continent. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted when he returned to the inner land. Half a year, I wonder how are things progressing with the materials I asked them to search for. The materials he had requested were the materials needed to restore the 2nd floor of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It had been half a year since he had gotten most of the people and demon beasts on Cloud Continent to search for the materials. He was eager to find out what the results were. With Duan Lingtian's speed, they soon arrived at the new site of Ling Tian's sect even though he carried 6 people with him. Initially, he only brought 4 people. However, he brought Shang Quan and Gold Thug along with him when he passed by Ling Tian's sect's former site. Previously, Shang Quan and Gold Thug did not want to leave because they wanted to wait for Duan Ling Tian's return. Now that Duan Ling Tian had returned, it was only natural they were willing to leave. When Duan Ling Tian returned to Ling Tian's sect with the other 6, Han Shuinai, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White had also returned. They had completed Duan Ling Tian's request within half a year. Duan Ling Tian was stunned when he returned to Ling Tian's sect. He could not help but feel amazed as he looked around the new environment. The new site of Ling Tian's sect had a rich high-grade origin stones reserve buried underneath. Such cultivation environment was considered decent on Cloud Continent. Apart from the 2 ancient clans, estates on Cloud Continent that had supreme-grade origin stones reserve buried beneath their estates, there was no other place that could compare to this. Sect Leader. After Duan Ling Tian's return, Han Shuinai gathered all Ling Tian sect's officials and disciples who stayed at the estate to meet the real sect leader of Ling Tian sect. She was just the acting sect leader after all. Now that Duan Ling Tian had returned, it was only right that she returned the sect to him. Zhang San, Luo Ping, everyone, it's been a while. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he looked at the familiar faces surrounding him. Apart from Zhang San and Luo Ping who used to be the vice sect leaders, the familiar faces included Chen Xiaoshuai, Lu Bai, the Nangong twins, and more. Sect leader. Zhang San and Luo Ping's emotions were in chaos when they saw Duan Ling Tian again. It was the same for Chen Xiaoshuai, Lu Bai, and the others. Although they heard from the Nangong twins that Duan Ling Tian was safe, they could not help but feel emotional when they saw Duan Ling Tian standing unharmed before them. Duan Ling Tian was not surprised to see the place was only left with these few familiar faces. Shuinai had mentioned the matter to him previously. Back then, Ling Tian's sect was at risk when Han Jing from Han Clan came. At that time, apart from these few familiar faces, the others had all betrayed the sect. Your Li Si. Duan Ling Tian looked at the unfamiliar face next to Zhang San. It was not difficult for him to guess this person's identity. Li Si was the only one who did not betray Ling Tian's sect when it was falling even though he had just joined the sect back then. He was Zhang San's friend. Sect leader. Li Si smiled joyfully when Duan Ling Tian took the initiative to greet him. He thought he had made a wise decision back then. Sometimes, being courageous was not necessarily a bad thing. Duan Ling Tian looked at Han Shuinai after Ling Tian's sect's senior officials and disciples left. He asked, Shuinai, how's the progress regarding the materials I asked for? We've got plenty of them, Han Shuinai said while smiling. She handed Duan Ling Tian a spatial ring. Everything the people submitted are in here. Everyone, no matter human or demons, is searching all over Cloud Continent to look for the materials for Brother Ling Tian. There will be more materials coming in soon, Han Shuinai said in one breath. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up when he heard her words. Just like Duan Ling Tian had expected, demon beasts on Cloud Continent were the most hardworking ones. They had turned in the most materials. They had the advantage in this regard. Duan Ling Tian was satisfied with the way the matter was handled. After sending the materials in his hands to Elder Huo in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Duan Ling Tian left Ling Tian's sect to see Demon Emperor Man Wu. This is what you deserve. Duan Ling Tian gave Demon Emperor Man Wu a Saint Stone. As long as you're willing to continue letting demon beasts collect more materials, I'll reward you accordingly, Duan Ling Tian said to Demon Emperor Man Wu before he left. Demon Emperor Man Wu's eyes lit up when he heard Duan Ling Tian's words. He commanded his direct disciples as he held the Saint Stone tightly in his hand. He continued to gather demon beasts on Cloud Continent to search for the materials Duan Ling Tian needed. He even promised that demon beasts who submitted more materials would stand a chance of becoming his follower regardless of their cultivation base. Although they would just be a low-rank follower of Demon Emperor Man Wu, many demon beasts fought for the opportunity. Gradually, even demon beasts from the outer land joined in to look for the materials that Duan Ling Tian needed. Apart from the abundance of materials found by the demon beasts, the human martial artists contributed quite a lot of materials as well. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian spent the rest of his time in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to comprehend the fused profundity diligently. His fused profundity was elevating with every minute and second. Ka and Li Fei sat with their legs crossed next to him. The atmosphere was peaceful around them. A few days ago, he revealed how amazing the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was to them. In an attempt to help them raise their strength, he brought them into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda as well. The 2 ladies were stunned at how amazing 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was. They were only able to calm down after a while. To them, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was too shocking. They were not like Duan Lingtian. He had heard many versions of this ancient myth in his past life. He had heard about the existence of a celestial supreme treasure like the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda before. Therefore, it did not take him long to calm down when he first heard about what the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda could do. I'll wait until Ka and Little Fayer's cultivation base rise a little more and for the 2nd floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to be restored before I bring them to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Duan Lingtian came up with a plan in his mind. This was why he had brought the 2 girls into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to cultivate. When the 2 ladies were cultivating, apart from comprehending the fused profundity, Duan Lingtian spent time passing the materials to Elder Huo in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda as well. Chapter 1350. Apart from comprehending the fused profundity and delivering materials into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Duan Lingtian spent the rest of his time moving Lingtian sect. Lingtian sect was currently the #1 sect on Cloud Continent. Thanks to Han Shuinai, Lingtian sect's position had soared on Cloud Continent. Even the 2 ancient clans did not dare to offend them. Due to that, the migration of Lingtian sect was successful. Apart from a group of martial emperors and demon emperors, including martial emperor Qingzan and demon emperor Man Wu, who came to help, the 2 ancient great clans sent powerhouses to help as well. At this moment, martial emperor Qingzan, demon emperor Man Wu, and the other prominent powerhouses realized that there were many people who were more powerful than them in the 2 ancient clans. The really powerful ones among them could kill or defeat them in just one blow. There were many people at Lingtian sect. Although many martial emperors and demon emperors came to help, they only managed to bring everyone to Half Moon Island after making 2 trips. Fortunately, many people came to help, otherwise, I wonder how long it would have taken me, Shui Nai, Little Gold, Little White, and Little Black to bring everyone from Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian muttered under his breath as he stood above Lingtian Peak. Almost everyone from Lingtian sect had been moved and handed over to the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. The Lingtian Peak beneath him was supposedly Lingtian sect's new site. However, it had now become its old site. Apart from Duan Lingtian and a few others, the current Lingtian Peak was left with only a few elders from Lingtian sect. The Lingtian sect's elders who were left behind were responsible for receiving materials from Cloud Continent to restore the 2nd floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. As time passed by, the materials submitted by the people from Cloud Continent became lesser and lesser. Eventually, no materials were submitted at all. Although the huge number of human martial artists and demon beasts on Cloud Continent searched high and low, they could no longer find the necessary materials needed to restore the 2nd floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Elder Huo, how much more do we need? Duan Lingtian asked Elder Huo. He was worried about the lack of materials. 50% of the 2nd floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is restored. It'll be completed if we have a little more materials, Elder Huo said. As soon as it's completely restored, you'll be able to enter the 2nd floor to cultivate and obtain the Jasper Celestial Sword. This 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is like a black hole. These huge number of materials only manage to restore 50% of it. Moreover, this is only the 2nd floor, there are still 5 floors after this. It's giving me a headache. Duan Lingtian forced a smile on his face. At this moment, the materials needed to restore 7 treasures exquisite pagoda could no longer be found on Cloud Continent. There's nothing we can do, the materials you brought in are the lowest grade. It's only natural that we need more of such low-grade materials, Elder Huo said. If you manage to obtain a few high-grade materials that I told you about, we'll only need one of each item to completely restore the 2nd floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Elder Huo, regarding the materials you mentioned, it's not just me, even Shui Nai has never heard of them. Where do you expect me to look for them? Duan Lingtian said with a forced smile on his face. Han Shui Nai was the pampered daughter of a powerful force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. He could not compare to her in terms of knowledge and experience. Let alone him, even she had never heard of the materials Elder Huo had mentioned. There are no materials like these on this planet. Elder Huo frowned, which he rarely did. That shouldn't be the case, those materials I mentioned came from the old planet Yanhuang. You should be able to collect quite a bit of those high-grade materials in the old planet Yanhuang as long as you're willing to look for them. Duan Lingtian's smile turned forced when he heard his words. Naturally, he knew the old planet Yanhuang that Elder Huo mentioned was Earth in the ancient myths. Humans were just born back then. It's possible that such materials exist on this planet. After all, it's impossible for Shui Nai to know each and every material on this planet, Duan Lingtian said as he shook his head. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian learned from Elder Huo that more than 80% of the materials they received from Cloud Continent to restore the second floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda could not be used to restore the third floor due to the quality of the materials being too poor. According to Elder Huo, the materials he mentioned were divided into 5 grades. The 5 grades were low grade, medium low grade, medium high grade, and high grade. The best among the materials gathered on Cloud Continent were medium low grade materials. Majority of them were low grade materials. Low grade materials were completely useless in regards to restoring the third floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. They needed at least medium low grade materials. Judging by the current speed, I'm afraid it's going to take forever to completely restore the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Duan Lingtian felt helpless when he thought about this. After a period of time, Han Shui Nai returned from Half Moon Island of the Overseas Saint Islands. She brought back a huge number of materials that she gathered from the 4 great Overseas Saint Islands. Compared to the materials gathered on Cloud Continent, the number of materials Han Shui Nai brought back was pathetic. However, most of the items were medium low grade and some were medium grade, so it added 30% to the pagoda that was 50% restored. Currently, the second floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was 80% restored. After searching high and low on Cloud Continent and the 4 Great Saint Islands, the second floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is only 80% restored. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. If you can retrieve the dragon orb in Little Devil Dragon's body, we'll be able to restore the remaining 20% immediately, Elder Huo said to Duan Lingtian. Elder Huo, why didn't you tell me earlier? It's too late now, he has left. Duan Lingtian let out a wry smile again. Naturally, he knew the little devil dragon that Elder Huo mentioned was De Yong. De Yong's true form was a 5-clawed devil dragon, the top among 5-clawed divine dragons. I'm afraid he wouldn't give you his dragon orb even if he's still here, Elder Huo said. Why? Duan Lingtian asked. Duan Lingtian finally understood why after Elder Huo explained it to him. Every dragon only had 1 dragon orb in them. The dragon orb was equivalent to a demon beast's beast core. The difference was dragons were born with a dragon orb in their bodies. They would die if the dragon orb was taken away. Therefore, the only way to obtain a dragon orb was to kill the dragon. Kill a 5-clawed devil dragon? Duan Lingtian's smile looked forced at this moment. Indeed, it was just as Elder Huo had said. Even if Wang Ba did not leave after taking over De Yong's body, Duan Lingtian would not be able to obtain the dragon orb from him. Although he could use the Devil Seal tablet to kill De Yong, he could not bring himself to do it. No matter what, De Yong had saved his life before. Although De Yong had his own ulterior motive, it was indisputable that he had saved him. Back when he used the Devil Seal tablet for the 3rd time in Lost Stone Forest, he would have died if not for De Yong. However, Duan Lingtian was still shocked when he found out a 5-clawed devil dragon's dragon orb was equivalent to the few high-grade materials that Elder Huo mentioned. If that's the case, aren't the high-grade materials Elder Huo mentioned treasures on the same level as a 5-clawed devil dragon's dragon orb? His heart sank when he thought about this. Shui Nai once told him there were not many 5-clawed devil dragons left in the dragon clan in the Dao Martial Saint Land. At any point in time, there were only 9 of them. That meant there were only 9 5-clawed devil dragons dragon orbs at the most at the Dao Martial Saint Land. Seems like restoring the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is going to be a long journey. I'm afraid there's only hope to restore the second floor of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda when we arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He was ready to leave since no materials needed to restore 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda could be found on Cloud Continent anymore. He would bring the 2 ladies out of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda after they had woken up from their cultivation. They would leave Cloud Continent with Han Shui Nai and the remaining elders from Lingtian sect to Half Moon Island of the Overseas Saint Islands. Before the 2 ladies woke up, Duan Lingtian visited all the martial emperors and demon emperors, apart from the powerhouses from the 2 ancient clans, and gave them saint stones. He, Duan Lingtian, would never owe favors to anyone. In regards to the two ancient clans, he had already gotten Han Shui Nai to show gratitude on his behalf. After returning to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian gathered everyone from Lingtian sect in Half Moon Island. At the same time, he officially merged Half Moon Island's 3 Vice Island Masters and disciples with Lingtian sect. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island who had surrendered in the face of Duan Lingtian's strength did not dare to object at all, let alone their underlings. From that moment onward, Lingtian sect took root on Half Moon Island. Since Lingtian sect had moved to Half Moon Island, the building structure in the central area, naturally, needed to be changed. Under Duan Lingtian's command, all of the old buildings were demolished and new ones were built. Soon after, Lingtian sect's estate on Half Moon Island was erected. Watching the majestic sect estate beneath him, Duan Lingtian exclaimed, "A massive project like this would take at least 8 to 10 years to complete back on Earth where I used to live, however, it only took half a year to complete everything here." Duan Lingtian was excited upon seeing the completion of the new estate. "It's time to leave," Duan Lingtian muttered under his breath. It was time to leave Half Moon Island and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land. No matter if it was for returning to Earth or to look for his parents, he had to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Moreover, he was curious and looked forward to exploring it. Chapter 1351. When Duan Lingtian had arranged everything and was ready to bring the two ladies and Han Shui Nai to leave Half Moon Island and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land, Li Fei came to him. "Scoundrel, I would like to stay back," Li Fei said to Duan Lingtian hesitantly as she bit her lip softly. "Why, you don't want to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land?" Duan Lingtian asked, puzzled. "Powerhouses are everywhere on the Dao Martial Saint Land. Let's not talk about me, it's dangerous even for you. I don't want to burden you," Li Fei said slowly after she took a deep breath. "Also, Lingtian sect shouldn't be without a leader. I want to stay back and take care of Lingtian sect for you." She was unwilling to be separated from her man. However, she tried her best to stay rational. That was why she had said something like that. "Young master, I would like to stay as well," Ka said before Duan Lingtian even managed to respond to Li Fei. Similar to Li Fei, she did not want to burden Duan Lingtian and slow him down. No matter if it was Ka or Li Fei, both of them had to face the facts that it was impossible for them to possess strength equivalent or stronger than Duan Lingtian that would allow them to stay by his side and help him. Therefore, they had decided to stay and take care of Lingtian sect for him. By doing this, it could be considered as them sharing their man's burden. "Sister Fair, Sister Ka, you don't have to do that. You're welcome to stay at my place if you're worried you'll hold Duan Lingtian back. My house is very safe," Han Shui Nai said to the two ladies as soon as Ka finished speaking. "Shui Nai, I know you're saying this with good intention. However, what's the difference between staying at your place and staying on Half Moon Island? Furthermore, I can help take care of Lingtian sect if I stay on Half Moon Island," Li Fei said with a smile. However, there was a hint of unwillingness in the depth of her eyes. "That's true. Moreover, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White aren't leaving just yet. They can keep us company," Ka said with a nod. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unwilling to let his two ladies stay back. "Ka, Little Fair, didn't both of you say you won't ever leave me again?" "Scoundrel, it's different this time. Moreover, you can always come back and visit us anytime you want if Ka and I stay on Half Moon Island," Li Fei said as she shook her head. Ka nodded at Li Fei's words. Eventually, Duan Lingtian had to compromise since there was no way he could change the two stubborn ladies' minds. However, they took a long time getting intimate with each other before he left. He fulfilled the two ladies' requests, planting a love seed in each of their bodies. Their love seeds would blossom and bear fruits 10 months later. "I'll definitely come back when the children are born," Duan Lingtian promised the two ladies before they parted way. "Scoundrel, don't worry about Ka and me when you're at the Dao Martial Saint Land, we'll take good care of ourselves. We're very safe with Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White around," Li Fei said. "Young master, Sister Fair and I will wait for your return," Ka said to Duan Lingtian with gleaming eyes. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and looked at the two ladies fondly with a hint of unwillingness. He subsequently shifted his focus to the three little fellows and said solemnly, "Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White, please take good care of your Sister Ka and Sister Fair." "Brother, don't worry, I'm here, and I'll take good care of Sister Ka and Sister Fair," the little girl in gold said to Duan Lingtian seriously. "That's right, brother. With me and Little White here, we won't let anything happen to Sister Ka and Sister Fair, Little Black said confidently. I believe in all of you. Duan Lingtian knew he could rely on the three little fellows' abilities. The three little fellows' current strength was not inferior to the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island at all. Duan Lingtian and Han Shui-nai left the two ladies and the three little fellows who looked unwilling to part ways with them. They soon disappeared before their eyes. At this moment, tears were streaming down Ka and Li Fei's beautiful faces. They tried their best to hold back their tears when Duan Lingtian was around since they did not want him to see them cry. Now that he had left, they did not have to hold back anymore. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian and Han Shui-nai traveled above the vast and boundless ocean on the north of Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian was feeling a little down during the beginning of the journey. He gradually felt better after Han Shui-nai comforted him. However, his emotions were stirred. The feeling was indescribable. My two children will be born 10 months later. This was the reason why Duan Lingtian was feeling emotional. He would have children soon. He would be a father soon. No matter where I am, I'll definitely return within 10 months. I want to be with Ka and Little Fair to witness the arrival of the two little lives. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and made up his mind. Shui-nai, you left the Dao Martial Saint Land alone, isn't your father worried about you? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Han Shui-nai next to him. He recalled whenever Han Shui-nai came to Cloud Continent in the past, she would have Qingnu by her side, however, she came here on her own this time with the three little fellows. Brother Lingtian, someone came with me when I left the Dao Martial Saint Land this time, but I made them wait near the ocean on the south of Dao Martial Saint Land. Han Shui-nai said, it's very rare to see Saint Rudiment Stage and Mortal Shedding Stage powerhouses on the journey to the Dao Martial Saint Land, let alone Saint Stage powerhouses, so there's no need to worry about danger. Furthermore, even if we encounter someone with ill intentions, unless it's a Saint Stage powerhouse, I'm not afraid of them, although Dao Talisman can't kill them, it can still injure and restrain them, Han Shui-nai said confidently. Dao Talisman, Duan Lingtian said, I see. He just remembered Han Shui-nai had Dao talismans with her, only a handful of Dao cultivators above the Saint Rudiment stage could draw Dao talismans. Shui-nai, with our current speed, how much longer do we need before we arrive at the Dao Martial Saint Land? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. Around half a month, Han Shui-nai said. Half a month? It'll take that long? Duan Lingtian was surprised when he heard this. One must know he only needed a few days to travel from Half Moon Island to Cloud Continent with his current speed. However, they needed half a month to get to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Brother Lingtian, I overheard the conversation between you, Sister Ka, and Sister Fair earlier. I heard you said you'll return when the children are born before you parted ways, are they pregnant? Han Shui-nai asked playfully as she blinked her big and unique eyes. That's right, they're due 10 months later. Duan Lingtian nodded joyfully. 10 months, Han Shui-nai said with a smile when she heard Duan Lingtian's words, Brother Lingtian, who told you your kids will be born 10 months later? Isn't it 10 months? Pregnancy usually takes 10 months. That's general knowledge, Duan Lingtian said as if he knew what he was talking about. Shui-nai, you wouldn't know that since you've never given birth. I wouldn't know that because of never given birth, Brother Lingtian, do you mean, you know because you've given birth before? Han Shui-nai mocked as she rolled her eyes at Duan Lingtian. You mischievous thing, it's possible that I've seen pigs running even though I've not tasted their meat before. Duan Lingtian smiled and shook his head. Han Shui-nai's smile turned even wider when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. She said confidently, Brother Lingtian, you're still so confident that Sister Ka and Sister Fair will give birth after 10 months, it's obvious you've never seen a pig run. Shui-nai, what are you trying to say? Duan Lingtian asked skeptically, frowning. The smile on his face had disappeared. Brother Lingtian, being pregnant for 10 months only applies to people under the innate stage. If both man and woman are above the innate stage, it'll take at least a year before the child arrives, Han Shui-nai explained. Man and woman who had just broken through to the innate stage or the void prying stage only give birth after a year of gestation. The higher the cultivation of the couple, the later their child would be born, however, the later the child's born, the more outstanding he or she would be. It's said they're born later because they're absorbing the innate origin energy in their mother's body, therefore, the later the child's born, the more remarkable their talent would be. Han Shui-nai continued speaking, with Brother Ling Tian, Sister Ka, and Sister Fei's cultivation base, it's impossible that your children will be born before 3 or 5 years. 3 to 5 years. Duan Ling Tian's jaw dropped when he heard Han Shui-nai's words. He had only heard of 10 months of pregnancy, he had never heard of being pregnant for 3 to 5 years. Was that something humans were capable of doing? Shui-nai, how do you know about all these? Duan Ling Tian asked skeptically as he looked at Han Shui-nai. He could not figure out how a girl like her would know about such things. Brother Ling Tian, didn't you say it yourself? It's possible to have seen pigs running even if you've not tasted their meat before. Han Shui-nai repeated Duan Ling Tian's words back to him as he smiled wryly. Eventually, he tried to confirm the matter again. Shui-nai, are you sure what you said is true? Bang, 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 bang. Han Shui-nai was about to respond when a loud explosion interrupted her. An explosion disturbed the peaceful ocean beneath her and Duan Ling Tian as seawater splashed everywhere. It was as though a giant rock had been thrown into the sea. Before Duan Ling Tian and Han Shui-nai managed to react, the rumbling ocean began to swirl suddenly, creating a powerful sucking force. The force shrouded Duan Ling Tian and Han Shui-nai in just a blink of an eye. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian felt an undefeatable strength covering his body as it pulled him down into the ocean. Subsequently, he was engulfed by a whirlpool that appeared on the surface of the ocean. Chapter 1352, Brother Ling Tian. Facing the powerful sucking force, Han Shui-nai managed to get a hold of herself forcefully. Her expression changed drastically when she realized Duan Ling Tian was caught in the rapid whirlpool. Without any hesitation, she quickly flew down into the rapid whirlpool. At the same time, an odd jewel appeared in her hand out of thin air. She crushed the jewel as soon as it appeared. A 7-colored ray appeared and shot up into the sky. The 7-colored ray shone all the way to the sky and only faded after a long time. Bang! When Han Shui-nai charged into the whirlpool, she was not affected by the sucking force. There was a layer of transparent light shield covering her body that isolated the seawater around her. She could still control her movement even though she was in the whirlpool. The rapid and swirling seawater within the whirlpool was beating against the transparent light shield, causing it to tremble. However, Han Shui-nai did not have the time to care about that. Her face was solemn as she dove deeper into the ocean, following the whirlpool. Soon after, she arrived at the bottom of the ocean. At the same time, she saw the cause of the whirlpool. It was a giant creature that was lying flat at the bottom of the ocean. Its terrifying mouth was wide open. The energy coming out from its mouth was the cause of the appearance of the whirlpool in the ocean. Some of the deep-sea fishes were caught in the whirlpool, failing to get away from it. It's a sea-engulfing beast. Why would a sea-engulfing beast be here? Han Shui-nai exclaimed as her expression changed. It was obvious she recognized the creature in front of her. The beasts on Dao Martial Saint Land were divided into 2 categories. One was Saint Beast while the other was Wild Beast. Saint Beasts that broke through to the innate stage were intelligent. They spoke the human language and would even take human form. They were no different from a human in their human form. They could cultivate saint-grade marital tactics and use saint weapons just like humans. They were also divided into martial cultivators and Dao cultivators. Since they were saint beasts, their bodies were, naturally, more powerful than ordinary humans. Some of saint beasts would have their strength reduced when they took human form. However, when they revert to their true form, they would regain their full strength. Wild beasts were different from saint beasts. If saint beasts were favored by God, then wild beasts were abandoned by God. In comparison to saint beasts, breaking through to the innate stage aside, wild beasts did not have human intelligence even if they managed to break through to the mortal shedding stage, saint rudiment stage or the saint stage. They would not be able to speak like humans, let alone take human form. They were similar to the unevolved wild beasts on Cloud Continent. They only survived through their instincts. They lived by the rule of nature, the weaker the prey for the strong. It was the survival of the fittest. Although they did not possess intelligence, could not take human form like saint beasts or cultivate human methods, martial tactics and use saint weapons to fight, their cultivation speed was not inferior to saint beasts. Moreover, their bodies were stronger than saint beasts. If a wild beast and a saint beast at the same level were to fight, the saint beast might not be a match for it even if it took human form, used saint weapons and saint-grade martial tactic. Wild beasts' bodies were too powerful. The weakest one was comparable to a 3-clawed divine dragon's body from the dragon clans. The powerful ones could even compare to the dragon clans, 4-clawed divine dragons. Wild beasts' bodies were their biggest advantage. Their battle instinct honed from 100, 1,000 or 10,000 battles was their most powerful technique. It was not inferior to the saint-grade martial tactic. The one that appeared before Han Shui-nai was precisely one of the wild beasts. Sea-engulfing beast. Han Shui-nai could tell it was a sea-engulfing beast at the early mortal shedding stage. You swallowed Brother Ling Tian. Han Shui-nai's face turned solemn and cold when she looked at the gigantic creature before her. The playfulness in her eyes was no longer there. Instead, it had been replaced with killing intent. Young miss. Just when Han Shui-nai was about to attack, two respectful voices sounded in unison. At the same time, two big silhouettes appeared behind Han Shui-nai and bowed to her. They were two towering big middle-aged men. Their appearance was so mediocre that most people would not take notice of them. However, judging by the transparent light shield on their bodies that remained unaffected by the rapid seawater, their strength had to be a lot more powerful than Han Shui-nai. The two middle-aged men had responded to the signal ray Han Shui-nai released earlier. Her father had sent them to protect her. However, when she left Dao Martial Saint Land, she left them behind at the southern ocean of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Kill it. It has swallowed Brother Ling Tian. Take care that you don't hurt him, Han Shui-nai commanded. Yes. One of the middle-aged men nodded seriously and took a step forward as soon as she finished speaking. A streak of light shot out from beneath his foot when he stepped forward. It pierced through the sea-engulfing beast's head in just a blink of an eye, causing it to fall. It was killed just like that. As its gigantic mouth was closing, the other middle-aged man vanished into thin air. The water did not ripple from his movement, it was extremely odd. When he appeared again, he was already in the sea-engulfing beast's gigantic mouth. He opened the sea-engulfing beast's huge mouth effortlessly and tore its mouth open all the way to its body. However, it did not look that gory since the sea-engulfing beast's carcass, blood, and flesh had already been frozen. They merely shattered like rocks. Meanwhile, the fishes that were swallowed by the sea-engulfing beast that had yet to be digested swam away quickly, escaping death. There was an old man in the sea-engulfing beast's stomach. The old man thanked the middle-aged man and bowed respectfully to him after he escaped from the sea-engulfing beast. Thank you, sir, for saving my life. He was a demon that had taken human form. He was just passing by when he encountered the sea-engulfing beast and was unfortunately swallowed by it. He thought he was going to die for sure and did not expect that he would be saved. Where's Brother Ling Tian? Han Shui-nai arrived before the old man and took a good look around. Her expression changed when she realized Duan Ling Tian was nowhere to be found. After looking at the creature's carcass, the middle-aged man who froze the sea-engulfing beast and killed it said to Han Shui-nai respectfully, "Young miss, there are marks left behind by a devil cultivator on this sea-engulfing beast's body. The devil cultivator must have controlled it to come here. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any sea-engulfing beasts here." Devil cultivator. Han Shui-nai's expression changed drastically when she realized it was unlikely that this incident was a coincidence. Han Shui-nai took a deep breath. She looked at the old man and asked urgently, "Did you see another person when you were swallowed by the sea-engulfing beast?" "A young man dressed in purple. I saw him." The old man nodded. "The moment I was swallowed, I saw an unconscious young man behind me. He was almost swallowed too. During the critical moment, I saw a black shadow dashed by, and the young man was gone. A devil cultivator controlled this sea-engulfing beast and took Brother Ling Tian away." Han Shui-nai's mind became clear. She looked at the two middle-aged men next to her and commanded, "No matter what, we must find Big Brother Ling Tian." Yes. The two middle-aged men left in two directions after she finished speaking and began their search deep in the ocean. Who would come up with all this just to take Brother Ling Tian away? Since he's able to control an early mortal shedding stage sea-engulfing beast, it means he's at least above the intermediate mortal shedding stage. Han Shui-nai's heart jolted as she thought to herself, with his ability, it's not difficult for him to directly kidnap Big Brother Ling Tian. Why would he do this? There's only one possibility. He's afraid of me. Han Shui-nai inhaled sharply as she thought to this point. That means, this devil cultivator knew that he wouldn't be able to take Brother Ling Tian away because I'm here. That's why he controlled the sea-engulfing beast to buy himself some time. Things became clearer for Han Shui-nai the more she thought about it. Di Yong. It has to be Di Yong. When she finally cleared her mind, the first person she thought of was Wang Ba, who took over a 5-clawed devil dragon's body back then. He was currently known as Di Yong. He left much earlier. There must be something he wants for him to do this. Han Shui-nai was almost certain the person who took Duan Lingtian away was De Yong, however, she could not figure out why De Yong would do this. Is there something he wants from brother Lingtian? Maybe it's the Devil Seal tablet. However, would he want it even if it's given to him? The Devil Seal tablet was a devil cultivator's bane. It was named a super saint weapon and was listed in the 10 great saint weapon rankings due to one unique characteristic. Apart from that, it was no better than other saint weapons. Han Shui-nai felt like it did not make any sense the more she thought about it. Could it be the pagoda? Soon after, Han Shui-nai recalled the pagoda that she and De Yong could not go near but Duan Lingtian could. One could tell the pagoda was not simple at all. She had a feeling the pagoda was not inferior to the vast sky pagoda, one of the super saint weapons. If that's the case, brother Lingtian should be safe for now, Han Shui-nai thought to herself, relieved. If I were him, and I want the pagoda and its secrets, I won't let the Devil Seal tablet remain in brother Lingtian's possession. He's a devil cultivator after all, brother Lingtian could kill him with the Devil Seal tablet. The biggest possibility would be him taking brother Lingtian's spatial ring away and removing the blood ownership claim with his spiritual energy, Han Shui-nai speculated as she calmed herself down slowly. The blood ownership claim on spatial rings on mortal continent was weak. Anyone above the mortal shedding stage could remove the blood ownership claim of a spatial ring forcefully by using his spiritual energy. Chapter 1353. I'm not dead. Duan Lingtian finally regained consciousness. He felt heavy in his head. I remember, I was sucked into a whirlpool that suddenly appeared in the ocean. The whirlpool was really strong. I couldn't resist it even though I'm powerful enough to defeat those below the mortal shedding stage. The strength of the whirlpool is definitely above the mortal shedding stage. I think I passed out from the beating of the waves from the whirlpool. Duan Lingtian shook his head, trying to recall what happened before he lost consciousness. Where's this place? Duan Lingtian regained his senses and took a good look at his surroundings. He discovered he was on a small and barren island, surrounded by the vast ocean. Where's my spatial ring? Soon after, Duan Lingtian noticed his spatial ring was missing. It caused his expression to change drastically. At this moment, a cold voice resounded from above, and a big silhouette appeared before him. Are you looking for this? It was a middle-aged man dressed in black. He was big, tall, and muscular. He looked like a tower as he stood there. More importantly, he was holding the spatial ring in his hand. Duan Lingtian was, naturally, familiar with the spatial ring. It was his spatial ring after all. Bastard! Duan Lingtian could not help but frown as he shifted his focus from the spatial ring to the black-clad middle-aged man's face. Why are you here? Also, why's my spatial ring with you? The black-clad middle-aged man was none other than De Yong, who had left Half Moon Island of the Overseas Saint Islands a while ago. To be more precise, it was Wang Ba who had taken over De Yong's body. Wang Ba was the sole remnant of a devil cultivator who had stayed inside Duan Lingtian's body back then. He once saved Duan Lingtian's life with the intention of using him to look for a suitable body for himself. De Yong did not reply Duan Lingtian. Instead, he asked him in his deep voice, "Kid, where's the pagoda?" After removing the blood ownership claim on Duan Lingtian's spatial ring with his spiritual energy at the mortal shedding stage, he took ownership of Duan Lingtian's spatial ring. However, he did not find the exquisite pagoda in it. He realized Duan Lingtian had hidden the exquisite pagoda somewhere else, and he was certain it was somewhere around Duan Lingtian. Although he had no idea where Duan Lingtian had hidden the pagoda. Due to its flexibility in size, it must have been hidden somewhere inconspicuous. How did you remove the ownership on my spatial ring? At this moment, Duan Lingtian discovered he had lost connection to his spatial ring, and his expression changed drastically again. Spiritual energy above the mortal shedding stage can easily remove ownerships of spatial rings below the saint weapon stage. De Yong said calmly, I know the pagoda must be with you, tell me where did you hide it? I can't believe I can't find it. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath, trying his best to calm himself down. He only looked at De Yong after a while and smirked. Seems like you've claimed ownership of my spatial ring. What? The Devil Seal tablet didn't do anything to you. He felt a little regretful at this moment. If he knew this day would come, he would have upgraded his spatial ring to the quasi-royal grade. If he had done that, his spatial ring would be a step closer to the saint stage. He could have avoided someone removing his ownership of the ring. HMPH. De Yong's face turned solemn when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Naturally, the Devil Seal tablet had almost gotten to De Yong, The second he claimed ownership of Duan Lingtian's spatial ring, the Devilseal tablet had stirred when it noticed his presence. He had removed his ownership of the spatial ring as soon as he discovered the pagoda was not in there. He was really worried the Devilseal tablet would suppress his soul again. Just like the saying went, a child that had been burnt dreads fire. "Where is Shui Nai?" Duan Lingtian asked in his deep voice after he calmed down. He knew the reason why De Yong was here. He was here for the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. De Yong must have noticed how extraordinary the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was and became greedy. However, he did not impulsively snatch it away since the Devilseal tablet and Han Shui Nai were always with Duan Lingtian. That was why he had waited until today. When Duan Lingtian passed out, he had removed his spatial ring and claimed ownership of it so that he could no longer use the Devilseal tablet. Without the Devilseal tablet, Duan Lingtian knew very well that he was like a tiger without its teeth. De Yong was not afraid of him at all. "I'm guessing the little girl has people looking everywhere for you at this moment," De Yong smirked and said confidently, "however, they won't be able to find you." Duan Lingtian was relieved to hear that Shui Nai was safe. Duan Lingtian looked at De Yong coldly. It was not difficult for him to figure out what had happened. He had connected the dots after he had calmed down. However, he wanted confirmation from De Yong, so he asked in his deep voice, "There was a whirlpool in the ocean before I passed out, did you do that?" "That's right," De Yong admitted immediately. "The whirlpool was caused by a sea-engulfing beast. I gave the sea-engulfing beast an enslavement brand, and it went to that part of the ocean under my command. I've done so much to avoid that little girl and obtain your spatial ring. Good things really come to those who wait. I've finally done it," De Yong said as he smiled charmingly. Soon after, the smile on De Yong's face disappeared, and he said to Duan Lingtian solemnly, "I'm warning you, you better hand over the pagoda obediently. Just tell me the way to not be repelled by it, and I'll spare your life." "Do you mean, you'll kill me if I don't hand over the pagoda?" Duan Lingtian's voice turned deeper as he stared at De Yong. "I won't kill you. I'll torture you into telling me where the pagoda is and its secret. But I'll kill you eventually if you make me torture you to spill the secret." An eerie smile appeared on De Yong's face again when he spoke. "I'll kill you first." Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed ferociously when De Yong finished speaking. At the same time, he seemed to have turned into a cannonball as he shot up into the sky. Subsequently, a bow and arrow appeared in his hand. Arrow light strike. When he pulled the bowstring into a full draw, Duan Lingtian quickly released the arrow in his hand. The arrow shot toward De Yong like a bolt of lightning. Child's play. De Yong lifted his arm slowly. He did not seem bothered by Duan Lingtian's unexpected attack. All of a sudden, invisible energy with a majestic aura came toward the arrow Duan Lingtian had shot out. Moreover, the air above Duan Lingtian's head began to rumble at the same time. Duan Lingtian felt as though a gigantic palm had appeared and was pressing down on him forcefully. He felt his strength being suppressed. Bang! A deafening explosion reverberated in the air. Duan Lingtian was caught unprepared. He was pressed down to the ground by the force, causing him to feel lightheaded. So this is the strength of someone at the mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He felt pain all over his body. At this moment, he was left with just one thought. He was just an ant in De Yong's eyes, an ant that could be stepped on as De Yong wished. Naturally, he knew very well this was because of the difference between his strength and the mortal shedding stage. Although I've comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity that makes me undefeatable when it comes to people below the mortal shedding stage, I'll still be defeated when I encounter someone at the mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian thought to himself at this moment. Too bad I've just comprehended the 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity not too long ago and have yet to step into the mortal shedding stage, otherwise, I wouldn't have to go through this now, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Brat, my patience is limited. If you're unwilling to tell me, I have my way of making you tell me everything. Don't forget, I'm a devil cultivator. Moreover, I was once a saint stage devil cultivator. De Yong threatened impatiently. Shui Nai's right, this is what devil cultivators are like. They shouldn't be underestimated. Too bad I didn't take her words seriously, Duan Lingtian said coldly. I regret not using the Devilseal tablet to suppress you back then to spare all future troubles. There are no pills that can cure regret in this world, De Yong said calmly. I'll give you the span of 10 breaths. You either hand over the pagoda and tell me its secret, or you prepare yourself for the gift I've prepared for you. At that time, there'll be no way for you to take back your words. I have at least 100 ways to get you to hand over the pagoda and tell me its secret. De Yong's tone was getting colder as he spoke. It was so cold that it could give rise to goosebumps. It was as though his voice came directly from hell. Duan Lingtian's heart sank when he heard De Yong's words. Elder Huo, do you have any idea what I should do? Duan Lingtian inhaled deeply and took the initiative to contact Elder Huo, the three-legged golden crow, in the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. He knew Elder Huo would not be aware of what was happening outside if he did not contact him. Although Elder Huo was powerful, he could not leave the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. Even his energy could not be sent out from the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. The only thing that could be sent out was his voice. Duan Lingtian contacted him not to ask him to attack, he wanted to ask Elder Huo if there was any way for him to escape his predicament. Do what he said, give him the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda, also, tell him the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda's secret, Elder Huo responded to Duan Lingtian soon after. Chapter 1354, What? Duan Lingtian did not expect Elder Huo would actually ask him to hand over the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda to De Yong and tell him its secrets. Wait a minute, the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda did not seem to have any secrets, right? The Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda did not reject him because it had acknowledged him as its owner. This was because his soul was from planet Yanhuang. Even if he handed the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda to another person, he still would not be able to sever his ties to the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. The Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda seemed to be clinging to him. Elder Huo, even if I hand over the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda to him, I still have no way of forcing the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda to acknowledge him as the owner. Could it be that you have a way? Duan Lingtian asked. I didn't ask you to hand over the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda to him for real. I'm telling you to hand it to him for the time being to stall for time, Elder Huo explained. Duan Lingtian was finally hit by a pang of realization. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's gaze landed on the spatial ring that was held in De Yong's hand. That spatial ring belonged to him, and the Devilseal tablet was inside the ring. As long as I can take the Devilseal tablet out, it'll be easy for me to kill De Yong. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Soon after, a light bulb came on in Duan Lingtian's mind. His gaze instantly lit up as though he had recalled something. Elder Huo, I have an idea, you just need to play along with me, Duan Lingtian told Elder Huo. Boy, you only have the span of 3 breaths left, if you can't make up your mind, I'll show you the meaning of, better off dying. De Yong's cold voice resonated in the air. The Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda is in the spatial ring in your hand, Duan Lingtian said calmly as he looked at De Yong. Humph, I've already checked your spatial ring after performing blood ownership claim on it. The pagoda's not inside. Boy, I warn you, don't play games with me. De Yong snorted as killing intent rose in his eyes. It was as though he was about to devour somebody. You've seen how amazing the pagoda is, as long as I will it, I can change its size as I please. I've already turned it into the size of a speck of dust before I kept it in the spatial ring, Duan Lingtian said in a tone that was neither hurried nor slow as he stared at De Yong nonchalantly, let alone you, even I won't be able to find its location in the spatial ring if I didn't establish ownership over it. De Yong frowned upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words. Previously, he had witnessed with his own eyes how the pagoda that was as tall as an ordinary adult had turned into a small exquisite pagoda before it fell into Duan Lingtian's palm. Due to this reason, he did not suspect anything when Duan Lingtian said the size of the pagoda could be changed. With how amazing the pagoda was, shrinking to the size of a speck of dust was not impossible at all. I've almost been deceived by you. De Yong's gaze sharpened as he was hit by a pang of realization. He said to Duan Lingtian coldly, I believe the size of the pagoda can be changed, and it can transform into the size of a speck of dust, however, it's not necessarily in the spatial ring. Perhaps, it's hidden somewhere on your body. As for why you told me it's in the spatial ring, well, it's obvious you just want me to hand over the spatial ring so that you can use the Devilseal tablet to seal and kill me. Do you think I'll fall for your trick? De Yong had a knowing look on his face when he reached the end of his sentence. I must admit, your imagination can run pretty wild. In that case, you can torture me as you please. I'll tell you the truth that you want to hear when I'm almost dead. Duan Lingtian swept a disdainful glance at De Yong. However, I'm afraid the result will still be the same in the end. From the very beginning until the end, De Yong was glaring intently at Duan Lingtian's eyes and the expression on his face. He noticed Duan Lingtian did not show any signs of guilt at all. This began to cause him to have doubts. Could it be that the pagoda had really shrunk to the size of a speck of dust and had been kept in the spatial ring by Duan Tian? The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was plausible. You can now cast your techniques, don't even think about getting your hands on that pagoda anymore, Duan Tian said nonchalantly, seemingly fearless. Duan Tian's eyes flashed when he saw De Yong's gaze had fallen on his dantian. He could tell what De Yong was thinking about. He instantly smirked. What, you think the Devil Seal tablet won't be able to seal you after you cripple my dantian? Don't forget, I've already infused the energy that activates the Devil Seal tablet into it a long time ago. Even if you cripple my cultivation base, the Devil Seal tablet will still be activated by the energy that I previously infused into it. Killing you will be easy. You should know this better than anyone. When Duan Tian reached the end of his sentence, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. De Yong's face turned grave immediately. Earlier, he was overwhelmed by his own thoughts and had forgotten about this. That's right, there's also another thing I have to tell you. That pagoda is an extremely rare treasure. It even has a close relationship with the 10 great saint weapons in the Dao Martial Saint Land's 10 great saint weapon rankings. Duan Tian lied without batting his eyes as he looked at De Yong. After he saw the interest in De Yong's eyes, he continued to bluff. All of the 10 super saint weapons actually came from the pagoda spirit in the pagoda. The moment Duan Tian's words left his mouth, De Yong's eyes brightened immediately, and his breathing began to quicken. All of the 10 super saint weapons actually came from the pagoda spirit in the pagoda. For a moment, his heart boiled, and his desire to obtain the mysterious pagoda became even stronger. However, his mind was still clear, and he did not let his guard down. De Yong put on a calm facade and suppressed his emotions as he asked Duan Tian, "Do you think I'll believe you just like that? What proof do you have?" "Proof? Well, you'll be able to see if it's true after you obtain the pagoda. As long as I remove my ownership on the pagoda and hand it over to you, you'll be able to contact the pagoda spirit in the pagoda," Duan Tian answered nonchalantly. "At that time, you can get the confirmation from him. With your cultivation base at the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage, don't tell me you're actually afraid of me tricking you. Even if I pose a threat to you and want to use the Devil Seal tablet, you can always kill me before the Devil Seal tablet seals you, no?" Duan Tian continued to say. "Humph, of course, I'll be able to kill you in just a flash. However, I'll probably die as well." De Yong snorted. If Duan Tian really took out the Devil Seal tablet, and he managed to kill Duan Tian before the Devil Seal tablet sealed him, he would most likely die too. "What, you think I'm willing to die together with you?" Duan Tian laughed heartily. A hint of mockery could be seen in his eyes as though he was mocking De Yong for thinking too much. Upon hearing that, De Yong's eyes lit up immediately. He nodded. "I'll return the spatial ring to you, but I'll be monitoring your every action closely. If you dare to take out the Devil Seal tablet, I'll kill you instantly. I'm happy to take out the pagoda for you, but you must make an oath using the 99 heavenly tribulation that you won't kill me or make things difficult for me once you obtain the pagoda." Duan Tian said solemnly, "Otherwise, I won't do as you wish even if I die." "Deal. As long as you don't play any tricks and hand over the pagoda to me so that it can acknowledge me as its master, I'm willing to make an oath." The moment De Yong's words left his mouth, he pricked his finger and began to make an oath. As 9 claps of thunder resonated in the sky, the tribulation oath, the 99 heavenly tribulation, responded to De Yong's oath. In De Yong's opinion, he did not care whether he killed Duan Tian or not as long as he obtained the pagoda. Although Duan Tian's innate talent was good, it was still unworthy for him to take it seriously. At this moment, De Yong began to lower his guard. He could see how sincere Duan Tian was since he asked him to make an oath. He felt more at ease now. "Don't play any tricks, and don't doubt my strength." After making the oath, De Yong handed the spatial ring to Duan Tian. At the same time, he extended his spiritual energy and locked in on Duan Tian. If Duan Tian dared to take out the Devil Seal tablet, he would kill him immediately. He had lived together with Duan Tian for a period of time, so he knew he would not choose to die together with him. Due to this reason, he was not worried Duan Tian would make an extreme choice. After Duan Tian had taken back his spatial ring, he performed the blood ownership claim on it again before putting it on his finger. Meanwhile, his heart jolted as the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his ear turned smaller rapidly. After it had turned into the size of a speck of dust, it floated out and landed in his hand. I've already taken it out, Duan Lingtian said. Huh. Upon hearing this, Di Yong looked at Duan Lingtian's hand immediately. Still, he could not see anything at all. He could not help but frown. When he saw a dot on Duan Lingtian's hand that was growing bigger and bigger into an exquisite pagoda, his eyes lit up immediately like the stars in the night sky. What an amazing treasure, Di Yong mused. Done, I've removed my ownership claim. Soon after, Duan Lingtian handed the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to Di Yong. As long as you extend your spiritual energy to the top of that pearl, it'll acknowledge you as the owner. Then, you'll no longer be repelled by its energy. You used this to make it acknowledge you as its master previously? Di Yong asked as his eyes gleamed. He could still remember, at that time, be it him or Han Shui-nai, none of them could touch this pagoda at all. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, had already taken the pagoda in his hand in just a blink of an eye. At that time, he did not think of using his spiritual energy at all. Yes. Now, establish ownership on it before you take it. Duan Lingtian nodded. Upon hearing this, Di Yong extended part of his spiritual energy into the pearl at the top of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The remaining spiritual energy was still locked on Duan Lingtian. He was worried Duan Lingtian would suddenly make a move at this moment. Look at how cautious you are. When Di Yong carefully took the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Duan Lingtian smirked inwardly. Chapter 1355, Hermth. At the moment when Di Yong took over the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, an ancient voice echoed in his mind, thoroughly shocking him. Who are you? Di Yong's face turned solemn immediately. I'm the 3-legged golden crow, the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, the ancient voice echoed in his mind. Pagoda spirit. Upon hearing that, Di Yong's eyes lit up instantly as he looked at the exquisite small tower in his hand intently. So it's called the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Long before the ancient voice echoed in his mind, Di Yong's spiritual energy that was locked on Duan Lingtian had already begun to ease up. Now that the 3-legged golden crow had begun to talk, Di Yong's attention was fully focused on the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Even he did not realize he had unknowingly withdrawn the spiritual energy he had locked on Duan Lingtian. Now, when Di Yong was looking at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand, the ancient voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears and alerted him. Whoosh! In that instant, a stone tablet that lacked a corner appeared in his hand. It was none other than the Devil Seal tablet. The moment the Devil Seal tablet was in his hand, killing intent shot out of Duan Lingtian's eyes. He gripped the tablet and smashed it down on Di Yong's head immediately. Rolling energy immediately surged out of the tablet. Shit! Di Yong finally snapped back to reality when he heard the sound of wind whistling by his ears. Horror dawned on his face when he realized he had made a grave mistake. He actually withdrew the spiritual energy that was locked on Duan Lingtian when he was distracted by the pagoda spirit in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Let alone making his move, Di Yong did not even have time to turn his head when the energy from the Devil Seal tablet enveloped him. Bang! Duan Lingtian held the Devil Seal tablet in his hand and smashed it on Di Yong's head with all his might. Tyrannical black energy instantly swept into Di Yong's body as though it was crushing dried leaves. No! At that instant, a shrill cry left Di Yong's mouth. His body trembled before he dropped to the ground like a dead dog. His soul was sealed by the Devil Seal tablet and had shattered into dust. Idiot! Duan Lingtian took the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda back as he glanced coldly at Di Yong's body. At the same time, he said to the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, "Thank you, Elder Huo." If he did not have Elder Huo's cooperation, he would have been killed by Di Yong even if he managed to take out the Devil Seal tablet. This stone tablet is not bad, Elder Huo complimented the Devil Seal tablet before he quickly changed the topic. Take his dragon orb out. With his dragon orb, I'll be able to complete repairing the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Elder Huo's words made Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately. That's right, I almost forgot about it. The dragon orb in a 5-clawed devil dragon is an item that can fix the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. At this moment, Duan Lingtian looked at Di Yong who had reverted to his true form. A 5-clawed divine devil dragon that was 100 meters long lay on the ground soundlessly. It's better to take his entire body inside. Although he's only a 5-clawed divine dragon, his entire body is still a treasure for you, Elder Huo piped up. Duan Lingtian nodded before taking the 5-clawed devil dragon into the 1st level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. He then took the dragon orb out and passed it to Elder Huo. The instant Elder Huo took hold of the dragon orb, he went straight to work. This is a true divine dragon. Its entire body is a treasure. Oh, yeah. Dragon tendon. Duan Lingtian's mind jolted when he was studying the five-clawed divine dragon from top to bottom. In just a few moments, he managed to strip the dragon tendon from the five-clawed devil dragon. This is the dragon tendon from a true divine dragon. Seeing the completely black dragon tendon that was emitting a black light, Duan Lingtian's eyes brightened. The dragon tendon of a five-clawed divine dragon is not something that can be compared to the dragon tendon from a worm dragon. Soon after, Duan Lingtian took out his royal grade spirit archery set and tore off the worm dragon's dragon tendon before replacing it with the dragon tendon that was freshly removed from the five-clawed devil dragon. Now that I've replaced it with a five-clawed devil dragon's dragon tendon, the bow's power will be much stronger now. Duan Lingtian smiled as he pulled at his new bowstring. The bowstring was extremely hard. He only managed to pull it a little even after he had exerted all his strength. If one did not look carefully, one would not even notice the arch the bowstring made as Duan Lingtian pulled it. As expected from the dragon tendon of a five-clawed divine dragon. I've used all of my strength, and I only managed to pull this much. Not only was Duan Lingtian not disappointed, but he also felt excited. He knew the bow in his hand was finally a royal grade spirit weapon now. Snap! Duan Lingtian was still caught up in his excitement of obtaining the dragon tendon of a five-clawed devil dragon when he suddenly felt a tremor on the hand that was holding the bow and the bowstring before he heard the crisp sound of something snapping. When he returned to his senses, he was shocked to find that the bow had snapped into two. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian was dumbfounded. The five-clawed devil dragon's dragon tendon had snapped his bow into half. This bow was a freaking royal grade spirit weapon. The royal grade spirit weapon on Cloud Continent was equivalent to the human rank mediocre saint weapon of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The human rank mediocre saint weapon had just been snapped into half by the five-clawed devil dragon's dragon tendon. At this time, Duan Lingtian finally learned just how frightening the dragon tendon of the five-clawed devil dragon was. It looks like I'll need a much stronger bow if I want to use this dragon tendon as the bowstring. The bow at the human rank mediocre saint weapon level is just not enough, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Boom, 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 comma. When Duan Lingtian was staring intently at the five-clawed devil dragon's dragon tendon in his hand, his fondness for it growing, he felt a sudden tremor beneath his feet. It was the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. It felt as though an earthquake had just taken place. At the same time, Elder Huo's voice echoed and woke Duan Lingtian up. The second level is open now. He turned around to look in the distance. Elder Huo, who was standing at the end of the stairs, motioned to him, and he quickly went up to the second level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. It's fixed. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up. The five-clawed devil dragon's dragon orb is indeed extraordinary, Duan Lingtian mused inwardly as he followed Elder Huo and successfully climbed up to the second level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. What a rich heaven and earth spirit energy. When Duan Lingtian arrived at the second level, he could instantly feel the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air of the second level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda was a lot denser compared to the first floor. They were at completely different levels. The cultivation environment of the second floor of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda is much better than the first level. Time passes by much slower here. Over here, 3 days inside is equivalent to a day outside, Elder Huo explained to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded. Elder Huo, where's the Jasper Celestial Sword? Duan Lingtian remembered the Celestial Supreme Treasure that Elder Huo had mentioned previously. The Celestial Supreme Treasure, Jasper Celestial Sword, was hidden on the second level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian studied the surrounding. He could see the second level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda was much better compared to the first level. Not only were there plants and flowers, but there was a spacious courtyard as well. There was a pool in the courtyard, and its surrounding was covered by grass. The grass was overgrown since nobody was here to tend it. Whoosh! When Duan Lingtian was about to trim the grass, he noticed Elder Huo had already made his move. Elder Huo appeared idle as a fiery red light blade swept out. After the light blade swept out, it continued to grow bigger and swept across the entire courtyard, trimming the overgrown grass in the courtyard. In just a flash, the ambiance of the courtyard changed completely. Meanwhile, a standalone stone table materialized before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Earlier, the stone table was fully hidden by the grass, so he did not notice its presence at all. That sword, it's the Jasper Celestial Sword. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian saw two items lying on the stone table. One of the two items was a sheathed long sword. The sword handle and the sheath of the long sword had an ordinary appearance. It made the sword appear ordinary as well. However, Duan Lingtian knew this was no ordinary sword. It was most probably the Jasper Celestial Sword, the celestial supreme treasure of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda. This is the Jasper Celestial Sword. When Duan Lingtian flew out to stand before the stone table, Elder Huo's sound echoed in Duan Lingtian's ear, causing his emotions to stir. A smile appeared on his face, and his eyes shone brilliantly. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian reached out to take the Jasper Celestial Sword. This is a celestial sword. Now that I have this, I think even someone at the mortal shedding stage person would find it hard to block my attack right. However, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face turned frozen soon after. He discovered that he could not lift the Jasper Celestial Sword at all. It was lying soundlessly on the stone table as though it was rooted there. It did not move an inch at all. After trying for a little while, the Jasper Celestial Sword still remained unmoved. He was left with no choice but to ask Elder Huo, who's standing at the side, "Elder Huo, what's going on? Your strength is too weak. It's natural that you can't lift the Jasper Celestial Sword," Elder Huo replied. "Elder Huo, you mean, this Jasper Celestial Sword is very heavy?" Duan Lingtian asked, his eyes as wide as saucers. "Yes," Elder Huo nodded. With a raise of his hand, he gripped the Jasper Celestial Sword. This time, the Jasper Celestial Sword finally moved. Still, it only moved a slight inch before Elder Huo put it down. Beads of sweat already began to form on his forehead. "I've never been so weak before in my entire life." Elder Huo sighed out loud. He was the three-legged golden crow, a variant in the Yanhuang land. From the moment he was born, he was gifted with divine strength that could conquer and transform nature. With just a spread of his wings, he could cast a flame that was capable of burning everything in the world. However, currently, he could not even lift up a celestial sword. "It's such a heavy sword, how long will I have to wait before I can use it?" Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. There was a celestial supreme treasure before him, but he could not use it at all. At this moment, only Duan Lingtian alone understood his own feelings. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian reluctantly tore his eyes away from the Jasper Celestial Sword and shifted his gaze to the other item beside the Jasper Celestial Sword. The second he saw this item, his eyes brightened immediately. Bow. The item that appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes was a bow. It was a shabby-looking bow without a bowstring. The bow had 10 dents on it, and its appearance was as shabby as trash. However, Duan Lingtian knew that this bow was not an ordinary item if it was placed alongside the Jasper Celestial Sword. Chapter 1356. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian reached out a hand to lift the bow up. Since he had undergone the previous experience, this time, he used all his force to lift it directly. However, even after he had fully exerted his strength, it was still difficult for him. Despite lifting the bow, it was still difficult for him to use it as he liked. "I'm afraid I'd have to wait until I make a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage before I can use this bow as freely as I like," Duan Lingtian muttered, holding on to the bow in his hand. After taking a deep breath, he put it down once again before asking Elder Huo, "Elder Huo, what is this stringless bow?" Duan Lingtian did not realize that the instant he lifted the bow, Elder Huo's eyes had unnoticeably flashed for a second. "The sun-shooting bow." In the face of Duan Lingtian's query, Elder Huo replied as calmly as possible. However, even when he deliberately tried to calm himself down, one could still hear the shift in his tone. "What?" The moment Elder Huo's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian's eyes bulged and were as wide as saucers. "Elder Huo, why you aren't joking, are you? It's actually the sun-shooting bow." Looking at the bow on the stone table that had countless dents and was besmeared with rust, Duan Lingtian was overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. Of course, he had heard of the sun-shooting bow before. In the ancient mythology of his past life, when Huyi shot the sun down and killed the 9 golden crows, he had used precisely this bow. The reason he could kill the 9 golden crows was all thanks to this sun-shooting bow. Elder Huo, looking at the old man, Duan Lingtian's gaze was complicated. Elder Huo was the remaining 3-legged golden crow who had managed to escape Huyi's arrow. His 9 other elder brothers had all died from Huyi's arrows. "It's all in the past," Elder Huo sighed. When he saw Duan Lingtian's expression, he knew that he had heard of the sun-shooting bow before and recognized who the owner of the bow was. Elder Huo, why is this sun-shooting bow here? After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian asked. Back then, I killed Hui and avenged my 9 elder brothers, so his sun-shooting bow fell into my hands too. However, I didn't manage to bathe in my victory much as not long after that old monk Depenkara came knocking on the door and sealed me in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Needless to say, this sun-shooting bow came into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda with me too, Elder Huo explained. Why you killed Hui? Duan Lingtian's eyes widened as his face was completely filled with skepticism. In the legend, it was said that after 9 of the 10 golden crows had been killed by Hui, the last one escaped in a wretched manner, and now, it seemed that this golden crow who had escaped had killed Hui. Hui was gifted with divine strength and the body of a mortal. He used the sun-shooting bow to kill 9 of my elder brothers. That time, he managed to gain an advantageous position because there was a huge distance between us. Because of that, I could only flee. Elder Huo seemed to see through Duan Lingtian's disbelief. So he replied slowly, in the end, I managed to find an opportunity to get near him and make a sneak attack on him before I killed him. Duan Lingtian finally understood. Since he was using the archery set, of course, he knew about the pros and cons of using it. If it was a close-range attack, the archery set was pretty much useless. Such a legendary sun-shooting bow actually turns out like this. How disappointing. Looking at the bow on the stone table, Duan Lingtian shook his head. The sun-shooting bow wasn't originally like this. That time, after I killed Hui, my anger was still not fully released yet, so I released all my wrath on this sun-shooting bow instead. Elder Huo replied, the strength of the sun-shooting bow originally came from the 10 heavenly jewels embedded in the bow. At that point, by using the sun divine flame, I forcefully tempered the sun-shooting bow for 81 days. In the end, I managed to take the 10 heavenly pearls from it. Then, I also took the bowstring from the sun-shooting bow and threw it away along with the 10 heavenly jewels, therefore, the sun-shooting bow has now turned out like this, Elder Huo finished in one breath. Then, this also means that this sun-shooting bow is no longer the invincible peerless sun-shooting bow from that era, is it? Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. Elder Huo, why, oh, why? If you wanted to avenge your brothers, you could have just killed Hui. How could you destroy this treasure, the sun-shooting bow? If you hadn't destroyed it the last time, I'd have a convenient weapon already by now. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, the wry smile on his face became even more apparent. In his opinion, Elder Huo was too spendthrift. Although this sun-shooting bow is no longer as almighty as it was all those years ago, no matter what, it's still a celestial supreme treasure that was once on top of the world. Even my sun divine flame can't do anything to this bow at all, Elder Huo responded, hasn't your bow been snapped by the little devil dragon's tendon? This would fit the little devil dragon's tendon quite well. After you've attached the bow to it, although its strength might not be as comparable to the celestial supreme treasure, it could still be deemed to be a top-grade weapon on this planet. With a raise of his hand, Elder Huo held the tattered sun-shooting bow in his hand and passed it to Duan Lingtian. Yeah, I guess. It's perfect after just attaching the 5-clawed divine dragon's tendon to it. Duan Lingtian nodded and accepted it, his face still slightly dejected. If it were a complete sun-shooting bow, then it'd be even greater. What a pity, what a pity. If it were a complete sun-shooting arrow, it'd be even heavier than the Jasper Celestial Sword. When only 5 out of the 10 originally embedded heavenly jewels were taken out, then only did its weight decrease to become the same as the Jasper Celestial Sword, Elder Huo added. Is the complete sun-shooting bow even heavier than the Jasper Celestial Sword? By twofold on top of that too. Upon hearing that, a twitch could be seen on Duan Lingtian's mouth right away. Then, in that case, how freaky was this Hui to have used the sun-shooting bow to kill 9 3-legged golden crows with a mortal's body? Was he really just a human? Taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian looked at Elder Huo and voiced out his question, just because Hui had a mortal's body doesn't mean that he was an ordinary person. It was merely because his body couldn't breathe the celestial origin energy. He mainly cultivated and trained his brute body. Even if he was empty-handed, other ordinary celestial beings wouldn't have been able to fight him at all, Elder Huo explained. Oh, I see. Duan Lingtian finally understood. It was no wonder. And here he was thinking how an ordinary person could actually manage to lift a complete sun-shooting bow that was twice as heavy as the Jasper Celestial Sword. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian seemed to recall something as he asked, Elder Huo, as one of the celestial supreme treasures, both the Jasper celestial sword and the sun-shooting bow are horribly heavy, but why isn't the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda heavy at all? The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't heavy to you, its master. If the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda hadn't acknowledged you as its master, you wouldn't have been able to lift it up as well too, Elder Huo replied. But, didn't the sea monster take the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda with it as it wandered around? Duan Lingtian asked in curiosity. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was originally in the hands of a sea monster deep in the ocean not far away from Half Moon Island. According to the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island, it was always carried around by the sea monster. That was because I didn't want to just stay in one spot together with the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, so I controlled its weight instead, Elder Huo explained. After all, I'm still the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Even though I won't have any impact on its decision of choosing its master, I can still control its weight. Ah, I see. After Elder Huo had explained to him, Duan Lingtian's confusion was finally solved for the time being. In this case, this incomplete sun-shooting bow suits me better no, Looking at the dented sun-shooting bow that was engulfed in rust, a brilliant smile flashed across Duan Lingtian's face. Then, with just a raise of his hand, he attached the 5-clawed devil dragon's tendon onto the sun-shooting bow. As Elder Huo promised, the bow of the sun-shooting bow was indeed very tough and tenacious. No matter how he exerted his full strength to try and pull the bowstring, the sun-shooting bow did not budge at all. Elder Huo, what's the original material of the bowstring of the sun-shooting bow? Suddenly, Duan Lingtian was hit by this question and he could not help but ask. It was also a dragon tendon, Elder Huo replied. Dragon tendon too? Duan Lingtian's eyes were as huge as saucers. Isn't the sun-shooting bow an eminent celestial supreme treasure? Wouldn't a 5-clawed divine dragon's tendon be slightly unworthy to be its bowstring? The dragon tendon of a 5-clawed divine dragon isn't even worthy to be the bowstring of other ordinary celestial bows, let alone the sun-shooting bow. The string of the sun-shooting bow was made from the 9-clawed winged dragon, Elder Huo explained. 9-clawed winged dragon? Upon hearing that, confusion was apparent on Duan Lingtian's face. What's that? Is it a divine dragon too? The 9-clawed winged dragon is also known as the 9-clawed divine dragon, Elder Huo explained patiently. The 9-clawed divine dragon, Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed for a moment. Does it actually exist in this world? I thought the 5-clawed divine dragon is already the most prominent dragon in the dragon clan. I can't believe that the 9-clawed divine dragon exists too. The 5-clawed divine dragon can be considered the most prominent in planets like this or the Yanhuang planet, Elder Huo continued. By the time you've possessed the strength to walk out of this planet, you'll realize that there isn't just the 9-clawed divine dragon in this universe. There are even various 6-clawed, 7-clawed and 8-clawed divine dragons too. Duan Lingtian nodded. His biggest target now was to return to Earth, and if he wanted to do that, he had to leave this planet. Therefore, his target was to leave this planet too. Looking at the sun-shooting bow in his hand, Duan Lingtian muttered, with my current strength, I'm still far away from being able to use this sun-shooting bow as freely as I like. By the time I've made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage, it should be more or less ready. At that moment, he was desperately eager to make a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage. I wonder when will my profundity finally merge into my body and aid me in opening the saint vein. As for how many saint veins he would be able to open once he had reached the mortal shedding stage, Duan Lingtian's heart was full of anticipation. Relying on both the 9th-level Emperor stage-fused profundities and sword profundities, he had faith that the number of saint veins he would open would not be fewer than Shuinai. However, I can't cultivate now for the time being. Shuinai must be still looking for me. The moment he thought of this, he motioned to the Elder Fire and with a racing heart, he left the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Raising his hand, Duan Lingtian gripped the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda that was as big as a speckle of dust in his hand. Unfortunately, the space inside the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is still unstable before the 4th level is fixed. Otherwise, even if I come across any powerful fiend, I could still hide inside it to escape from the trouble. As he tossed the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda that was slightly enlarged into his ears, Duan Lingtian sighed deeply to himself. Chapter 1357. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian's mind was hit by a pang of realization and instantly he called out towards the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Elder Huo, didn't you say that as an eminent celestial supreme treasure, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda has a forbidding energy? If I enter it and shrink myself so that I can hide in it, it won't topple, will it? And if it doesn't, I won't be thrown out too. In the span of a heartbeat, Duan Lingtian suddenly remembered this. Before the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is fixed, the space inside won't even vibrate in the least when the wind blows past, explained Elder Huo upon hearing Duan Lingtian's query. Other than me, any other living thing inside will then be tossed out by that time, and that includes you, the owner of the pagoda. The moment Duan Lingtian heard Elder Huo's reply, his delighted heart sank once again. He knew he had been overthinking. I wonder where I am right now. Right now, Shui Nai must still be looking for me all over the place. Duan Lingtian soared up into the sky and left the little island below. Hovering in the air, he kept looking at his surroundings. The scene that entered his sight was a vast ocean that stretched out as far as his eyes could see. He could not make out his direction at all. How lucky would I be if I had the Earth compass from my past life with me? Even if the sun here were the same as the one on Earth from my past life, I'd be able to determine the direction too. But, the thing is, there's more than one sun here. Right now during this season, there are 2 other suns that rise up from different directions. He sighed before asking Elder Huo for help, but he had no solution as well. For a moment, he could only go around to search. This direction it is then. After Duan Lingtian had identified one direction, he quickly flew out, but even after he had traveled for an entire month at full speed, he still could not see any land at all, not even a slightly bigger island. Not only that, but he also met many ruthless, boorish beasts. There were a few times that he even almost lost his life. At that moment, Duan Lingtian was flying across the sky above the ocean, not daring to go closer to the ocean in fear that he would attract trouble that might cost him his life. This made Duan Lingtian very frustrated. With my strength, I'm already considered prominent in the Cloud Continent and even on the overseas Saint Islands, but now that I'm here, I'm merely an ordinary being. If I guess correctly, I must be near Dao Martial Saint Land already now. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian pondered to himself. Besides that, it's apparent that the gravitational pull here is much powerful than that of the Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. According to Shui Nai, the gravitational pull in Dao Martial Saint Land is far from being comparable to the Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. For instance, now, I can only fly this high at the max. If I were in the Cloud Continent or the overseas Saint Islands, I could fly twice the height I'm flying at right now. Shaking his head in despair, Duan Lingtian continued to fly forward. He had already lost his direction and the only thing that he could do now was to continue his journey all the way forward. There's an island in front. After another 2 weeks, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up right away when he finally saw an island. It was a small, solitary island on the boundless sea. After checking the surroundings for a moment to make sure that it was safe, he descended and landed on the small island. The small island was deserted and there was no sign of life at all. With a skip in his heartbeat, Duan Lingtian thought to himself, I think I'll just cultivate right here to mortal shedding stage before I leave. Otherwise, given my strength now, I might just die like this in this boundless sea. If he really died in this boundless sea and did not even step foot on Dao Martial Saint Land, it would be the greatest joke in the world. After finding a secluded area, Duan Lingtian smashed a cavern open by himself and stayed inside to cultivate. The cavern was calm and was battered neither by the winds nor the rain. The only downfall was that it was slightly dark. Soon, the cavern was lit up by the luminous pearl that Duan Lingtian took out as though it was daylight inside. At the same time, he took out the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda too. Settling the tiny 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda in a corner of the cavern, he entered the first level of the pagoda. Elder Huo. After he had entered, he immediately saw Elder Huo whose eyes were closed as he attained mental composure not far away. Yes. Upon hearing him, Elder Huo opened his eyes and nodded. Elder Huo, why don't you go to the 2nd level? Doesn't the 2nd level have a better cultivation environment? Perplexed, Duan Lingtian asked. I've always been here on the 1st level, so I'm used to it already, Elder Huo replied. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had 7 treasures, each of which was located on each level. This level was his territory. Duan Lingtian nodded and without saying a further word, he climbed up to the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda by himself. The moment he arrived on the 2nd level, he noticed that there was a new wooden house in the courtyard with a pool. Needless to ponder further, he suspected that this was built by Elder Huo. Smiling, Duan Lingtian entered the wooden house and sat on the long, narrow, low bed before he started to cultivate the divine dragon form of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique. At once, the vast origin energy in Duan Ling Tian's body started to operate based on the last divine dragon form of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique. On top of this, he also tried to merge his fused profundity with it. According to Shui Nai, this would help him to break through to the mortal shedding stage. Time continued to pass by quietly. After an infinite amount of time, he forgot about time in the midst of his cultivation. However, soon, his heart started to become agitated as he realized that from the beginning, he still showed no sign of making a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage at all. The origin energy in his body still repelled the fused profundity. Of course, it did not repel as much as last time anymore. Opening his eyes and waking up from his cultivation, he took a deep breath. No matter what, there's still some progress compared to the last time. This time, Duan Ling Tian calmed down and continued to cultivate. Time zipped by and a year went by very quickly. Of course, a year there referred to the time that had passed outside and not inside the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It had been 3 years inside the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After a year, Half Moon Island still remained tranquil. In the middle of Half Moon Island, inside the spacious base of the Ling Tian sect, 2 beautiful women were sitting in front of a stone table in the huge courtyard of a commodious mansion. Ka, what kind of freak baby are we carrying? It's already been 1 year and we only have such a tiny bump. One of the girls who looked seductively enchanting asked the other girl who seemed like a beautiful daughter of a humble family. Her hand was rubbing her belly tenderly. Looking at them, nobody would have known that they were pregnant at all. Young master must have known that we aren't giving birth so soon. Otherwise, he'd have already been back by now. The graceful woman stroked her belly and smiled too. It must be so. Still, how I wish he had never known about this in the first place. Then, we might be able to see him earlier. It has now already been a whole 1 year ever since he left and I really miss him a lot. The seductive woman was none other than Li Fei, one of Duan Ling Tian's 2 fiancés. The other girl's identity was apparent too. She was Ka. Sister Ka, Sister Feier. A songbird-like voice echoed and in just the blink of an eye, a white figure appeared in front of the 2 girls. It was a little girl who was fair and delicate-looking dressed in white. Little White, why don't you go and play with Little Gold and Little Black? Upon seeing the little girl, Li Fei smiled as she asked. It's not fun at all being with them. I still prefer to accompany you 2 and my 2 little nephews for a chat. The little girl was none other than Little White, the white python. Little White, you always take on this form. By the time your 2 nephews are born and have grown up, I'm afraid they'll be unwilling to call you Auntie. Studying Little White from top to bottom, Ka chuckled. It's alright, by the time I've made more progress and broken through to the mortal shedding stage, I can transform for the second time. When that time comes, I want to become a beauty just like you, Sister Ka and Sister Feier, Little Bai answered indifferently. Speaking of the mortal shedding stage, is it really that hard to achieve? Li Fei asked. Very. Little Bai nodded her head in affirmation. Even in Dao Martial Saint Land, the mortal shedding stage is a bumpy journey. If I want to make a breakthrough, it'll take me at least 1 to 2 years. However, I'm in no rush at all. If possible, I wish I'll only make a breakthrough after 8 to 10 years. In that case, my foundation will be much stronger and by the time I make a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage, I can then open more saint veins, Little White explained. And we're still very far away from that stage, Li Fei sighed emotionally. Little Bai, when do you think our children with young master will be born? Ka asked. Sister Ka, you and Sister Fei are conceived after you broke through to the martial emperor stage. By that time, brother was already at the peak of the martial emperor stage. After pondering a while, Little Bai continued, the children born out of your unification will need to wait at least 3 to 5 years at the most before they are born, not taking in the possibility of premature delivery. I hope Scoundrel will be back in time, Li Fei whispered, her ultimately charming face filled with longing. Young master will definitely come back in time, Ka piped up confidently. She had utter blind faith that Duan Ling Tian would definitely return before her child was born to accompany her and to welcome the new life to this world. Stroking the slight bump of her belly, Ka's face was filled with a joyful smile. At the north of Half Moon Island, in the middle of the sea, 3 figures that came from 3 different directions quickly gathered together. You still can't find him? The teenage girl who was dressed in yellow was worn out by her journey. Her face appeared to be much more mature now and she looked exhausted. Young miss, it's already been a year. If we could find him, we would have come across him long ago, one of the two heavy-set middle-aged men sighed. That's right, young miss, the other man nodded along as well. When he looked at the teenage girl in yellow, he appeared to be slightly careful. Brother Ling Tian must still be alive. He has to be. The teenage girl was none other than Han Shui-nai. Ever since Duan Ling Tian had gone missing a year ago, she had brought two men with her to search for a trace of him without restraint. Yet, a year had gone by and there was still no sign of him at all. Chapter 1358. Young miss, if he were still alive, he'd most likely have gone back to Half Moon Island to wait for you, one of the middle-aged men said. I'll go back to have a look on Half Moon Island. As a brilliance flashed across Han Shui-nai's eyes, she turned around and blasted out towards Half Moon Island like a cannonball. However, when she arrived at Half Moon Island, the answer that she obtained was evident. Duan Ling Tian had never once returned in this 1 year or so. Hovering above the air on Half Moon Island, a look of self-accusation could be seen on her face. It's all because of me. Had I not been so headstrong and refused to bring Ju and Shi with me, nothing would have happened to Brother Ling Tian at all. After taking a deep breath, Han Shui-nai finally regained her calmness. It's better for me not to show myself for the time being, lest Sister Ka, Sister Fair, and Little White would all be worried. In the end, Han Shui-nai did not reveal herself. Ju, Shi, let's go back. Turning around to look at the two sturdy middle-aged men following behind her like shadows, Han Shui-nai announced in a deep voice, I want to go and look for Dad to find a solution. I must find Brother Ling Tian regardless of whether he's dead or alive. She wanted to find him dead or alive. Not only that, but I have a strong feeling that Brother Ling Tian must still be alive. As Han Shui-nai's train of thought changed directions, she heaved a sigh of relief. Soon, under the escort of both Ju and Shi, Han Shui-nai proceeded to head towards the north at a breakneck speed so fast that it set off raging waves on the ocean surface. Only a year had passed outside, but it was already 3 years on the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. In these whole 3 years, Duan Ling Tian's 9th level Emperor stage fused profundity had already 99% perfectly merged with the origin energy in his body. According to Shui-nai, after I've taken a closer step and merged the fused profundity perfectly with the origin energy, I'll then be able to open the saint veins hidden in my body. From there, I can then make a breakthrough to the early mortal shedding stage. As Duan Ling Tian thought to himself, he cultivated even more painstakingly. The mortal shedding stage was just right in front of him. Right now, there was only one thought left in his mind, to break through to the mortal shedding stage. 10 days went by in just the blink of an eye. Boom! Suddenly, a violent wind swept out tyrannically inside the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda as a loud boom erupted. It was so loud that it was deafening to the ears. In the next instant, a series of dragons' cries echoed in the air. Even Elder Huo, the three-legged golden crow, who was on the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had also noticed the commotion on the second level. Immediately, he climbed up. After he had reached the second level, he noticed that the wooden house that he erected had been shattered to pieces. Inside the wooden house was a purple figure who was sitting cross-legged in the air. A sense of blood-curdling aura was emanating out of his body. This, of course, was not the most shocking thing there. The most unexpected thing was the illusion of the 9 divine dragons' silhouettes above the purple figure. They are all 9-clawed divine dragons. Upon seeing the illusion of the 9 divine dragon silhouettes, Elder Huo's heart thumped for a moment. What exactly has happened to him? Why would he be able to call 9 dragons to resonate with him, and on top of that, they're all 9-clawed divine dragons? Even though Elder Huo had lived for a long time, it was still his first time seeing such a phenomenon. Heck, he had never even heard about such a thing before. However, although he had neither seen nor heard of such a phenomenon before, he could also sense that this was an extraordinary heaven and earth phenomenon. He realized that this man must be very exceptional. Soon, Elder Huo noticed that after the illusion of the 9 divine dragon silhouettes had cried out loud, they transformed to become 9 rays that shot into Duan Ling Tian's body before disappearing. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes. A rolling airwave spread out tyrannically from him as the epicenter. Ha 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 ha, I've made a breakthrough. I've made a breakthrough. Duan Ling Tian, whose eyes were now opened, burst out with hearty laughter as he howled without restraint. 15 saint veins. It's actually 15 saint veins. That's a whole 5 saint veins more than Shui Nai's. At that moment, when he had broken through to the mortal shedding stage, he realized that he had already opened 15 saint veins. Wait a minute, suddenly, Duan Ling Tian noticed a problem. Aren't there only 81 saint veins in total? I've already opened 15 saint veins now that I'm only at the early mortal shedding stage. By right, when I reach the intermediate mortal shedding stage, I should be able to open 16 saint veins at the very least. And then, it would be at least 17 saint veins at the mastery mortal shedding stage, at least 18 at the perfection mortal shedding stage, and lastly, at least 19 at the paramount mortal shedding stage. All these added up together would be 85 saint veins. 85 saint veins. Duan Ling Tian's eyes were as large as saucers. Didn't they say that there were only 81 saint veins hidden inside a person's body? Even in the long history of Dao Martial Saint Land, only 3 people managed to open 81 saint veins. These 3 had then proceeded to become the powerhouses who stood on the summit of Dao Martial Saint Land as they overlooked the entire world. Perplexed, Duan Ling Tian went to ask Elder Huo about this. Saint vein. It seemed to be the first time Elder Huo had heard of such a term. The saint vein that you refer to is known as the geographical vein on Yanhuang planet. There are more than 81 saint veins hidden in all living beings. However, being able to open up to 81 saint veins can already be considered as having an eminent innate ability. Such people would have great achievements. Elder Huo continued, actually, there are a total 99 saint veins hidden inside a human body. The other 18 saint veins are deeply hidden, and unless you're richly endowed by nature, it's impossible for you to open them. 99 saint veins. Upon hearing Elder Huo's words, Duan Ling Tian's heart thumped like mad. There were actually 99 saint veins hidden inside a human body. The other 18 saint veins mainly connect to the eyes, nose, and ears. Once they are opened, your sight, smell, and hearing senses will reach an alarming level. Those whose sights are powerful can train until they obtain the clairvoyance skill, while those whose hearing ability is powerful can train to obtain the clairaudience skill, Elder Huo explained. I've never heard of anyone who has opened up to 99 saint veins in the Jade Emperor Heaven. Even Gautama, the old monk, is rumored to have only opened 95 saint veins. The horse protector should be the one who opened the most after him with a total of 93 saint veins, Elder Huo added. The Gautama Buddha had opened 95 saint veins. Su Wukong had opened 93 saint veins. Duan Ling Tian was extremely baffled. Of course, Duan Ling Tian knew that the saint vein was the term used on this planet. It was not known as saint vein elsewhere. Elder Huo, what's the Jade Emperor Heaven that you mentioned just now? After Duan Ling Tian had snapped back to reality, he asked curiously. You'll only bring vexation on yourself knowing about this now. By the time you already have the power to leave this planet, you'll naturally find out about it. Elder Huo dodged the topic. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Still, he speculated in his heart. The Jade Emperor Heaven that Elder Huo mentioned must have something to do with the Great Emperor of Jade, the character in the ancient mythology of his past life. Be it the former Elder Huo, or the Gautama Buddha, or even Sun Wukong, all of them must be in the Jade Emperor Heaven. Right now, the fact that you can open 15 saint veins means that your innate ability is indeed astounding. With your endowed gift, you can open at least 85 saint veins in the future. There aren't more than 10 people in the entire Jade Emperor Heaven who have a gift like yours, Elder Huo mused. Elder Huo, how many saint veins did you open at that time? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. 87 saint veins. 8 to 87. Upon hearing that, the corner of his mouth instantly twitched violently. The pride that rose in his heart just now disappeared without a trace at that instant. So what if he could open 85 saint veins? Elder Huo, the 3-legged golden crow, who was standing in front of him now had also only opened 89 saint veins. Yet, someone had still imprisoned him in this 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to become the pagoda spirit. As though a bucket of cold water had been poured down on his head, Duan Ling Tian completely returned to his senses. Wait a minute. Suddenly, as though he remembered something, Duan Ling Tian looked at Elder Huo in confusion before asking, Elder Huo, since Yanhuang planet could already come up with so many talented powerhouses, why are there only 3 people who could open 81 saint veins on this planet in this long history of time? Yanhuang planet is the closest mundane planet to the Jade Emperor Heaven. The myth that a later generation like you has heard of might not necessarily all be true. Although the horse protector and I were born on Yanhuang planet, we don't originate from there. I'm a three-legged golden crow that's transformed by the sun divine flames that descended to Yan Huang planet from the Jade Emperor heaven. As for that horse protector, he was formed from the ancient goddess Nua's five-colored stone that was originally an item from the Jade Emperor heaven. In the future, you'll learn that those mythical characters that you've heard of are mostly not from Yan Huang planet, Elder Huo explained. How about Li Jing? Duan Ling Tian asked again. Li Jing was a native to Yan Huang planet. It's also because of this that he was acknowledged by the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The earliest master of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was the old Depenkara monk. He was also a native of Yan Huang planet as well. He could be considered the most outstanding person who originated from Yan Huang planet. Elder Huo replied unhurriedly. How many saint veins did he open? Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up right away. 85, Elder Huo replied. Just 85, Duan Ling Tian was stunned. In fact, even he could open at least 85 saint veins in the future. Just, Elder Huo shook his head. As the native of a mundane planet, the fact that the old Depenkara monk could open 85 saint veins is already considered extremely astounding already. At the very least, before he was killed, I've never heard of anybody else who was native to Yan Huang planet who could open more than 82 saint veins other than him. Even Li Jing could only open 80 saint veins. His son, Nezha, was slightly stronger than him. He opened a total of 81 saint veins, Elder Huo continued. On top of that, the number of saint veins will only affect the speed of one's energy, leaving the body up to a certain level until detonation energy is formed within a second. One can't judge just how powerful a person is solely based on their number of saint veins opened, Elder Huo finished in one breath. Chapter 1359, Elder Huo himself was the best example. Although he had managed to open up to 87 saint veins, he was still no match for Gautama who had opened 85 saint veins. Despite his innate talent being stronger than Gautama's by a whole other level, his comprehensive strength was still far behind his. Otherwise, he would not have been imprisoned in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and become the pagoda spirit. Upon hearing Elder Huo's words, Duan Ling Tian nodded. He had long heard about this from Shui Nai before. Other than saint veins, there were still many other aspects that could affect one's strength. So, it turns out that most of the characters from the ancient mythology in my past life didn't come from Earth. At that time, Duan Ling Tian also realized that he could only trust 50% of the ancient mythology from his past life as the other half was mostly fabricated by the later generations. Right at that second, Duan Ling Tian did not realize that the gaze that Elder Huo used to look at him with now was very different from before. There was one more thing that he did not tell Duan Ling Tian. He did not tell him that even the Gautama Buddha, who had opened 85 saint veins then, had only managed to open 13 saint veins when he first started on them. He had been far from being the equivalent to the current version of Duan Ling Tian now. The reason he did not say it out loud was that he was worried that Duan Ling Tian would become too proud. Soon, Elder Huo returned to the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda again. Duan Ling Tian, on the other hand, had also closed his eyes again. However, instead of cultivating, he started to internally view the 15 saint veins in his body. Compared to the other meridians in his body, the 15 saint veins were like huge monsters. The 15 saint veins sauntered inside Duan Ling Tian's body like 15 divine dragons. Those other meridians, on the other hand, appeared to be like inconspicuous, tiny snakes instead. Oh, my dantian is actually gone. Soon, Duan Ling Tian noticed that the dantian at his lower abdomen had now disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by saint veins that intertwined with one another. All of these saint veins were heading in one direction, the spot between Duan Ling Tian's eyebrows. There was a chi-si at the spot in between Duan Ling Tian's eyebrows. Only when he stretched out his spiritual energy there, he could see the chi-si. Right then, the chi-si was only as large as a pigeon's egg. There was only a little bit of true energy inside. There was not much of it at all. This bit of true energy was transformed from Duan Ling Tian's original origin energy. Although it was inconspicuous, its strength was far from being comparable to the former origin energy in Duan Ling Tian's body when it came to power. The true energy was an energy that was on a whole different level. The operating pathway of the Nine Dragons War Sovereign technique has indeed passively been forced to undergo a transformation. This isn't the Divine Dragon 4, is it? Soon, Duan Ling Tian noticed that his technique had undergone a transformation just like how Shui Nai had told him. Shui Nai had informed him that once a martial or Dao cultivator transformed to the mortal shedding stage, his techniques would, more or less, undergo a transformation too. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian started to cultivate. Right at that moment, the heaven and earth spirit energy on the second level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda gushed into his body ceaselessly along with the 15 saint veins based on the cultivation method of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique. After cultivating for a week, the heaven and earth spirit energy had also transformed to become true energy and merged with his chi-si. The amount of true energy in his chi-si had grown a little bit more in a negligible manner. However, Duan Lingtian was not in a rush at all. Continuing to cultivate, he sucked in the true energy in the second level of the seven treasures exquisite pagoda non-stop and merged it into his body so that he could transform it into true energy suitable for his own use. According to Shui Nai, I can only advance to the next level by the time the true energy in my chi-si is fully filled. Duan Lingtian was familiar with the mortal shedding stage because of Han Shui Nai. This is, Duan Lingtian who was focused on cultivating suddenly realized that when the heaven and earth spirit energy merged into his body and operated as it circled around his 15 saint veins, there was a streak of swift strange energy that suddenly appeared around the heaven and earth spirit energy. At first, Duan Lingtian still had not noticed this, but now that he did, upon closer inspection, he was shocked to discover that there seemed to be 9 streaks of this strange energy. They seemed to be 9 divine dragons that were twirling around the heaven and earth spirit energy. It was only after the heaven and earth spirit energy had merged into his chi-si that these 9 divine dragons finally disappeared. It looks like this is the true transformation of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. This must be the 10th form of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique. The 9th form, the divine dragon form, is no longer the last form. What am I supposed to call this 10th form then? The 9 dragons war sovereign technique had been left behind by the rebirth martial emperor to Duan Lingtian. In the rebirth martial emperor's memory, there were only 9 forms to the 9 dragons war sovereign technique with the divine dragon form being the last form. However, right then, Duan Lingtian had made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage. For that reason, the 9 dragons war sovereign technique had undergone changes. The mental cultivation method that he was nurturing was no longer the divine dragon form. Or, how about I just call it the 9 dragons form? With a jolt in his heart, Duan Lingtian became even more delighted with the name as he pondered and christened the 10th form of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique. The 9 dragons form, true energy. Suddenly opening his eyes without warning, Duan Lingtian stretched both of his arms out and at once, the true energy in the chi-si surged out along the 15 saint veins, instantly gathering on his arms. That's fast. Duan Lingtian finally learned about the benefits of having the saint veins. The true energy in his chi-si had all gathered in his arms in a second. If I had only one saint vein, I wonder how long would I have to wait to gather all of this true energy onto my arms at once, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Boom, boom, with a raise of his hands, Duan Lingtian burst 2 punches out. Right away, the true energy swept out and soared across the long sky, causing the air in the second floor of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to tremble as faint palm prints charged out powerfully and landed on the wall of the second level instantly. A loud boom resonated and an impact wave swept out as though a hurricane had surged in the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. However, there was no sign of damage on the wall at all. What a powerful energy! My strength the last time can't even compare to my strength now. After going through the powerful force of the true energy, Duan Lingtian was completely consumed by bafflement. Even though the wall was not damaged, he was not surprised at all. What a joke! This was the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, an eminent celestial supreme treasure. It would be even stranger if a palm print marked the wall. The origin energy in my body has now gone. I can no longer feel my profundity as well. Right now, I have only true energy left, but my spiritual energy is still with me. Duan Lingtian started to get accustomed to his own situation now. Right now, I should be able to use the sun shooting bow normally. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat and with a raise of his hand, a bow appeared in his hand. It was a tattered bow. Only the bowstring was intact on the entire bow. There were 10 dents on the bow and they were extremely ugly. The bowstring was completely black with black halos gleaming around it, emanating a blood-curdling aura. It was the 5-clawed devil dragon's tendon. After I've made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage, my body seems to have become much more powerful now. Before Duan Lingtian started activating his true energy, he no longer sensed any pressure now that he was holding the sun-shooting bow in his hand. In fact, before he made a breakthrough, he would always feel an inexplicable pressure when relying on his brute strength, origin energy and profundity to lift the sun-shooting bow up. Nevertheless, right then, without even the need for his true energy and just using his brute strength alone, he could handle the sun-shooting bow with ease. In other words, just his brute strength alone was already more powerful than all of the strength added up together before he made the breakthrough. Ah! As though he was seized by a sudden impulse, Duan Lingtian shouted out loudly without warning and his muscles bulked up right away. As he threw out a punch, his power tore through the long space. At once, a gush of invisible energy swept out and soared into the sky as it set off a series of ear-deafening sounds. In the end, the invisible energy landed on the wall and set off a vast impact wave. It's this powerful? Duan Lingtian was shocked. He realized that his brute strength was more or less on the same level as his true energy power. If I add the true energy to it, the moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, the true energy in Duan Lingtian's qi swept out from the 15 saint veins once again and along with his brute strength, he punched out again without any reservation. This time, all he heard was a whistling by his ears that was followed by a loud explosion. The true energy swept out along with his brute strength at a speed so fast that he could even barely catch it with his naked eye. Whoosh, 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 At the same time, gushes of enormous hurricanes bounced off the walls and caused the robe on Duan Lingtian's body to flutter. That's insanely powerful. With my current strength, I could stand a chance to win even if I were to go against a martial or Dao cultivator who is at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. After experiencing the whole new level of strength in his body, Duan Lingtian started to be overwhelmed by emotions. How he wished to find 7 to 8 martial or Dao cultivators who were at the earlier intermediate mortal shedding stage to fight. Now that I've made a breakthrough, I have some strength to protect myself. I can't stay here all the time anyway, so I guess it's time for me to leave. As his train of thought shifted, Duan Lingtian left the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagodas and returned to the cavern. Elder Huo, how long have I been cultivating? Duan Lingtian retrieved the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda and asked. 3 years, Elder Huo answered. What, 3 years? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed right away as confusion filled his face. 3 years have gone now, I wonder whether my 2 children have been born already or not. Damn it, I must go back to Half Moon Island. He did not want to break his promise. Since he had already promised that he would be back when the 2 girls were about to give birth, he would definitely go back. Nobody could stop him at all. You've spent 3 years on the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, which is only equivalent to 1 year outside, Elder Huo added. The moment Elder Huo's words left his mouth, a bucket of ice water seemed to have poured down Duan Lingtian's head. He had snapped back to the reality completely now. Elder Huo, why didn't you tell me that you were referring to the time span in the second level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda earlier? Duan Lingtian snapped. Just now, he had first thought that 3 years had passed outside, giving him the fright of his life. After all, he did not even know which direction was home. Only a year has gone by outside. Adding on to the time that I spent making the journey, it should be a year and more. That's still okay, it's still early days to Ka and little Feyer's due date. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he breathed a sigh of relief. He had already learned that the 2 girls' due date would be in the next 3 to 5 years. Now that he knew that it had only been just over a year, he was no longer in a hurry. After leaving the cavern, Duan Lingtian rose up to the sky and studied his surroundings. In the end, he still continued to head in the direction that he had been heading before. This time, if he proceeded to head towards other directions, the entire journey that he had traveled beforehand would be in vain. Chapter 1360. As he continued to head forward, Duan Lingtian could feel that the gravitational pull was getting stronger. Suddenly, as though he noticed something, Duan Lingtian turned his head without warning and looked to his right. A black dot suddenly appeared in the boundless ocean. It's so far away, but I can still see it. It should be either a large island or a continent. Upon seeing the black dot, Duan Lingtian became slightly excited. Be it a large island or a continent, either might have people on them. The moment Duan Lingtian knew that he could see a person and ask his whereabouts now, he straightaway flew towards that black dot without any hesitation at a speed that accelerated as time went by. It's a large island. When he got nearer to it, he could finally clearly see that it was a massive island. I'm sure there must be human occupants on such a huge island. The moment this thought was formed in his mind, he was consumed with emotions right away. Boom! A loud blast resonated and interrupted Duan Lingtian's emotions, causing him to change in expression. He saw a gigantic creature suddenly leap out of the ocean surface. As it set off a tempestuous wave, it soared up to the sky and blocked his way. This was a completely black wild beast that was covered fully in scales. Its glossy dark green eyes were staring fixedly at Duan Lingtian and black saliva was drooling from the corner of its mouth. Although this wild beast kind of looked like a pangolin, it was way bigger than one. It seemed like a little hill hovering right there. I just so happened to want to look for a person to test my skill and you've already come knocking on the door. What a way to help relieve my work. Duan Lingtian's face eased up as he squinted. He could see that with the speed that this pangolin demonstrated just now, it was already enough to prove the level its strength was at. It was almost on par with Duan Lingtian who had yet to use his true energy. It's a wild beast on the early mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian had learned some basic things about the devil beasts from Shui Nai, so he was not surprised to come across one on his journey. Roar! After glaring at Duan Lingtian for a while, a glimpse flashed across the wild beast's glossy dark green eyes. As it let out a cry, it charged towards Duan Lingtian at a speed that was so fast as though it had transformed to become a bolt of lightning. Come at me! In the face of the wild beast, Duan Lingtian did not seem to fear it at all. With a stride forward, he went head-on with it. However, he was only maintaining his flying using his true energy. He was not planning to defeat his enemy at all. In the face of the wild beast, all of the muscles on his body swelled up as explosive energy gushed into his punches that swept out right away. Bang! The wild beast arrived before him in just the blink of an eye. Duan Lingtian punched his head and along with the resonation of a loud thud, he rebounded back with the force. As for the wild beast, it was sent flying several dozen meters before finally came to a halt. What strong defense! No wonder Shui Nai said that a wild beast's defense could be compared to half of the dragon clan, Duan Lingtian mused. But what a pity that you came across me. My body has been refined by the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda's energy before, so I'm much stronger than the 5-clawed divine dragon. In the face of the wild beast who cried out peculiarly and charged toward him again, Duan Lingtian's gaze turned colder as he pounced forward as though he was a cannonball. Boom! He shot out and went head-on with the wild beast. Boom! 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 In the face of the true energy waves that spewed out of the wild beast's mouth continuously, Duan Lingtian punched his fist out continuously, shattering the true energy waves into bits. Every time when he shattered the true energy waves, he was thoroughly soaked in a hearty and satisfied feeling. Roar! The wild beast yelled peculiarly again in a sharp voice. There seemed to be some changes in the tone compared to the one before. Huh! The peculiar cry that he released sent uneasiness down Duan Lingtian's spine right away. Soon, Duan Lingtian began to understand why he felt so uneasy. The wild beast was calling for its friends. The ocean surface surrounding them started to become turbulent as raging waves started to be set off. Every time the waves surged up, it was followed by a huge black silhouette that shot out and arrived in the sky. Boom! 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 Along with the series of loud sounds resonating from the surface of the sea ocean, more than 100 wild beasts that looked identical to each other appeared around Duan Lingtian. These beasts were exactly identical to the pangolin-like creature just now. Casting a glance at his surroundings, Duan Lingtian saw hundreds of glossy dark green eyes staring at him. All of them are early mortal shedding stage wild beasts. What a good boy you are. You couldn't defeat me, so you called for so many backups. Looking at the first wild beast that he had overpowered just now, Duan Lingtian laughed as he scolded. However, it was apparent that the wild beast which lacked intelligence did not understand him at all. Instead, it proceeded to nod its head at the wild beasts and they nodded their heads in response as well. If there were only 8 to 10 of these wild beasts, Duan Lingtian would not be scared of them. However, with more than 100 of them, Duan Lingtian had no choice but to be more careful when going against them. Hence, he immediately took out his sun shooting bow and the arrow that he always brought along with him. The horde of wild beasts charged towards Duan Lingtian like they were clumsy dumplings. Somehow, 3 additional figures appeared at the sky above Duan Lingtian and the group of wild beasts. They were a middle-aged man, a young man, and a young woman. What a rare sight! The middle-aged man, who was dressed like a scholar with his head covered with a silk handkerchief and a fan in his hand, looked down at the scene below and chuckled. That's right. Usually, those people who are able to make the obsidian pangolin call for help would usually possess a strength that's able to kill it in just a short time, yet, he actually let the obsidian pangolin call its clan over. The young woman nodded in agreement. He's just digging his own grave. The young man snorted. Not necessarily. The middle-aged scholar shook his head and looked at the purple figure who was surrounded and attacked by the obsidian pangolins with interest. This young man seems to be quite young. Right at that moment, the young man beside him continued to answer as he stared at the purple figure, his eyes gleaming brilliantly with a peculiar luster. He's 35 years old. Ye man, don't you think it's rude to just probe other people's age like that? The young woman frowned as she chided. The young man smiled nonchalantly. When he looked at the purple figure, disdain could be seen in his eyes. It was disdain looking down at him from a higher position. Who's that? Duan Ling Tian, who was originally on his guard against the 100 over wild beasts, could suddenly feel a spiritual energy sweep towards him and envelope his entire being with a flash before dissipating right away. At once, he looked up high in the sky. His gaze instantly locked on one of the three men hovering in the air. That young man was looking at him disdainfully. Was it him who probed me using the spiritual energy? Duan Ling Tian's face turned dark right away. It had never crossed his mind that the people that he just met here over the seas would turn out to be this rude. Roar, roar, comma. Right at that moment, a brilliance flashed over the eyes of the 100 over wild beasts that were surrounding Duan Ling Tian as they started to make their move. Blotting out the entire sky, they pounced towards Duan Ling Tian like locusts flying in the air. Senior Lin, should we help him? The young woman looked at the middle-aged scholar and asked. Why should we care about him? Just let him die on his own. Before the middle-aged scholar could reply, the young man had already answered indifferently. He was pissed off by the gaze that the man in purple had looked at him with just now. Had it not been for the fact that the middle-aged scholar was present at the scene, he would have made his move long ago and cooperated with the wild beasts to kill him. Now that the young woman wanted to save that purple figure, of course, he was not willing to do so. Let's not rush and observe first, replied the middle-aged scholar nonchalantly, and he cast a glance at the young man with a calm look at the same time, causing him to turn pale slightly before lowering his head in fear. Just come at me. As for Duan Ling Tian, he merely snarled out loud facing the 100 over wild beasts that charged towards him. As he soared up into the sky, he shot upward like an arrow leaving its bow. In just the flash of an eye, he had already arrived high in the sky and obtained the upper hand. The 100 or so wild beasts followed him without fail. Whoosh! In the face of the wild beasts, Duan Ling Tian remained calm, and with just a raise of his hand, his arrow slid through the bowstring of the sun-shooting bow. Although his strength had now improved a lot, he still only managed to pull the bowstring by a few centimeters. A slight curve could be seen on the bowstring as he pulled it. He can't even pull his bow fully, and he still dares to go against those hundreds of obsidian pangolins. He's overestimated his strength too much. Ye man, the young man, snapped in arrogance. This bow, just as the young woman frowned slightly in puzzlement, the middle-aged scholar's eyes brightened up right away. He could see that the sun-shooting bow in Duan Ling Tian's hand was not an ordinary bow. Creak! As a stifling thunderous sound reverberated in the air, the arrow in Duan Ling Tian's hand left his hand and traveled all the way to the horizon. In just the blink of an eye, the arrow dropped and transformed into arrow ray that blotted out the entire sky. Falling down heavily like a meteor shower, the ray soon enveloped the horde of wild beasts. Arrow light shower. The technique that Duan Ling Tian had just cast was the arrow light shower of the colossal arrow light arrow. Compared to the arrow light strike, the arrow light shower was actually much weaker in strength. It was still in the first stage of the Saint grade martial tactic, the fundamental awareness stage. However, the arrow light shower would be much more effective than the arrow light strike in such a situation. Besides that, other than fully unleashing his brute strength, Duan Ling Tian had also used up all of his entire true energy in his chi-si in this shot of his. This was the first time he had unleashed all of his energy in a battle ever since he made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage early stage. Whoosh, 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 comma. The arrow ray blotted out the sky as it fell. It was as though a meteor shower had just taken place. Those wild beasts, on the other hand, were all engulfed by the meteor shower as well. Thud, 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 comma. Along with a series of faint sounds, more than half of the wild beast horde had their scaly armors pierced through and they died instantly. With just a single shot of his arrow, he managed to kill almost 100 over wild beasts. Even though there was still a small number who had yet to die, Duan Lingtian was already satisfied with such a situation. A wide grin crept upon his face. That's powerful. A gleam flashed across the young woman's eyes. Confounded, the gaze that she looked at Duan Lingtian with was completely different now. Not bad. The middle-aged scholar nodded with a faint smile. Upon seeing Duan Lingtian showing off like that, Yi Man's face was grave as though his parents had just died. After almost 100 wild beasts were killed, all of the dead corpses fell into the ocean and once again set off a series of raging waves. Not long after that, the entire sea was dyed a crimson red. The rusty smell of blood rose in the air, making it extremely pungent.